Good morning. Welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Children and Youth. Please silence all self-electronic devices and do not approach the dais. If you need a translation device, it is readily if you just ask the Sergeant at Arms.
大家早上好，欢迎大家来到今天的青少年和儿童教育委员会听证会。请大家在整个过程中把你的电子的设备全部放到静音或者关闭。如果你有什么事情需要需要翻译的话，请到后面跟我们的医官联系。谢谢。
Chair Stevens, we're ready to begin.
Good morning. I would like to acknowledge Councilmember Chiose, who's here, has joined us for this hearing this morning. I'm Councilmember Althea Stevens, Chair of New York City Council Committee on Children and Youth. I want to thank everyone for joining us today for our oversight hearing on evaluating ACS Family Enrichment Centers. We will also be hearing Resolution 843, sponsored by myself, which would call for New York City Education Department and New York City State Office of Family Services to prepare posters and pamphlets to ensure that foster youth are made aware of higher education financial resources available to them. I just want to give a special shout out to one of the young people who was here for foster care yesterday. And actually, they were advocating for this specific bill. So I'm really happy that we're hearing it today. And we'll hear from them a little bit later around this bill. So I'm excited to see them engaging and being civically engaged. Could we give it up for the young people? That's right. So excited that you came back. So they had a full day here yesterday, and to see you bright and early just really warms my heart. Family Enrichment Centers, or FECs, are designed to be family center spaces where members of the community can access events, resources, and services that strengthen families' well-being and stability. Before challenging escalates to children's welfare improvement, FECs have three core goals: to provide access to resources, support, and to strengthen families. 2, to build the strengthened relationships among neighborhoods and community members for mutual support. 3, to evaluate the voices of local leaders through co-designing of FEC activities. ACS first established 3 FECs in 2017 as a part of the city broader effort to address racial and ethnic disparities within the child welfare system. In 2021, the city announced a major expansion, adding 30 new centers over 4 years to help communities hit hardest from the COVID-19 pandemic. As of fiscal 2025, ACS has contracted for all 30 FECs citywide, have 30 contracts. Today's oversight hearing is an opportunity to examine how that expansion has been implemented, how effectively the centers are serving families, and whether they are achieving their mission of strengthening communities and preventing child welfare involvement. We also look forward to hearing from parent leaders and advocates about their experience with FECs, especially regarding how families are being supported in building community trust. As we evaluate the FEC model, we must acknowledge the history. For far too long, many Black and brown families have experienced the child welfare system as a punitive process. To be successful, programs like FECs must build trust by centering community voices, ensuring families can seek help without fear of stigmas. Ultimately, our goal today is to understand how FECs are operating and participating in what's working well, where there's room for improvement, and how they can ensure families have access to support that is truly community-driven and rooted in care. Strengthening community supports for families is essential to the well-being of our city's children. I'd like to thank the committee staff for their hard work in preparing for this hearing. Policy analyst Elizabeth Arts, committee counsel Christine Yamamint, right? Oh, look at that. I feel good about myself. It wasn't correct though, but so I feel good about it. And all of my staff at District 16, my Deputy Chief of Staff, Greer, and my comms director, Jata, who are here with us today. I now would like to turn it over to the committee counsel to swear in our first panel.
Hi, good morning. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions? Jess Danhauser.
I do.
Elizabeth Wolkamir.
I do.
Marcus Kessler. Thank you. You may begin.
Good morning, Chair Stevens. Good morning, Councilmember Osei. My name is Jess Danhauser. I'm the Commissioner for the Administration for Children's Services. I'm joined today by Elizabeth Wolkamir, who's the Deputy Commissioner of the Division of Child and Family Wellbeing, and Marcus Kessler, who's the Associate Commissioner for Strategy, Research, and Provider Partnerships in the division. We're pleased to have this opportunity to talk about the achievements of the Family Enrichment Centers and provide an update on their expansion across the city. FECs are welcoming, family-centered spaces co-designed with parents, caregivers, and community members. They are places where families with children can come together to build relationships, share resources, experiences, and expertise, and participate in or lead activities to strengthen their families and communities. No two FECs are alike. Each reflects the culture, strengths, and identity of its neighborhood. In 2018, the first 3 FECs launched, and now, 8 years later, there are 29 FECs, with the contract for the 30th FEC set to be registered in January 2026. We are deeply grateful to the FEC staff, directors, advisory council members, backbone provider agency teams, and most of all, the parents, caregivers, young people, and neighbors who bring each FEC to life every day. The FEC model was developed by ACS as a homegrown approach to strengthening families and communities, informed by national research and rooted in the Center for the Study of Social Policies, Strengthening Families framework. This research and evidence-informed framework identifies 5 family protective factors known to promote stronger families and safer children: parental resilience, helping parents cope with stress and bounce back from challenges; social connections, building supportive relationships with friends, neighbors, and peers, especially among isolated or disconnected parents and caregivers; knowledge of parenting and child development, helping parents feel confident and informed in their parenting approach; concrete supports, ensuring families can access resources that reduce stress and promote stability and mobility; and social and emotional competence of children, helping children develop the skills to manage emotions and build healthy relationships. The promise of the first 3 FECs was documented in a July 2020 in a report on youth by Youth Studies, Inc. The study found that FEC members reported a positive impact on social connection, family functioning, emotional connection with their children, and even outlook on life. Additionally, those surveyed reported significant increases in their access to advice and resources in addressing several life challenges, including parenting, financial issues, relationships, food and nutrition issues, and stress management. These findings reinforced our confidence in the model and led the city to provide ACS with the resources needed to expand from 3 to 30 FECs. With that, I'm going to hand it to Deputy Commissioner Liz Wolkamir to continue the testimony.
Thank you. Good morning. Starting in 2022, ACS expanded the FECs in phases through competitive procurement processes, 8 or 9 new FEC contracts starting each year. This phased approach reflects our commitment to quality over speed, ensuring every FEC launches with the right amount of ACS support, community input, and co-design to ensure a strong foundation for community-driven sustainability. There are now 29 FECs, 8 in the Bronx, 8 in Brooklyn, 5 in Manhattan, 7 in Queens, and 1 in Staten Island. The 30th FEC, which is due to have its contract registered in January, will be in the Bronx. A map showing the locations and contact information for the 29 FECs can be found at the end of the written testimony that we submitted. Because of our phased expansion, the FECs are currently in different stages of maturity. Some have been open for many years, like the original 3, and are thriving hubs for families and community members with deep roots in the communities they serve. Others are an early startup, focused on hiring and training staff, building awareness of the FEC at community events, developing partnerships with other community organizations and leaders to host events for families, and renovating their spaces. Implementing an FEC is a multi-step, community-centered effort. On average, it takes about 18 months from contracting to opening the doors of the new FEC. During that period, providers engage a diverse mix of community members, especially parents and caregivers that are typically more isolated or disconnected from networks of social support. In FEC site visioning, selection, layout design, decorating, and naming. Hiring is community informed. Local residents are often participating in staff selection panels, and newly hired staff work with community members and local stakeholders to guide the planning and execution of community engagement and family support activities. Before the doors even open, FEC staff support early community events and engagement, often in partnerships with other community organizations, to support families and build awareness, trust, and momentum. Today, 17 FECs have dedicated spaces that are fully open to the public. The numbers have changed a little bit since we submitted this. 5 more are going to be opening this fall. We have a couple new grand openings coming up, including one this weekend. And the remaining 7 will be open in 2026 as their construction is completed. Family enrichment centers, growing family protective and promotive factors are core to FEC practice and to driving the model's family strengthening outcomes. How FECs aim to achieve these outcomes is what makes them unique. They do this through peer-to-peer, relationship-based, and community-driven support and decision-making. Families don't have to prove need or share personal information. The FECs are not case management programs. They don't require intake, eligibility screening, or documentation. Instead, they operate on trust, relationship, and respect. Families simply walk in, often for a cup of coffee initially and conversation, and find connection, resources, and community. In fiscal year 2025, 29 FECs offered more than 2,900 activities aimed at strengthening family protective and promotive factors. On average, citywide, FECs offered 390 activities each month, each decided and planned with community members, with an average of 40 family and community members participating in each event. This is separate and apart from families and community members who visit the FECs daily, whether for a cup of coffee or an opportunity to connect with others. In FY25, about 1,500 activities across all FECs aim to increase families' access to concrete support. On average, these were the most well-attended FEC activities. FECs help stabilize individual families by providing them with or connecting them to tangible, essential resources, things like food, clothes, diapers, housing assistance, cash assistance, and neighborhood mutual aid. They also promote mobility by hosting group-based financial empowerment workshops, resource fairs, educational advancement events, and career readiness sessions, which help families manage budgets, access benefits, or explore pathways to employment and higher education. One example is that the FEC, the Yard, which is the East Flatbush FEC, regularly offers financial management and empowerment pathway events, partnering with other city-funded programs like Workforce One. We have a number of other examples that are in the written testimony for you to read through later. In FY25, about 670 of the activities across FECs aim to grow the social and emotional competence of children. On average, these were the second most well-attended FEC activities citywide. FECs create support environments and experiences that build positive social skills, emotional regulation, problem solving, and effective communication for children, teens, and young adults. For example, the Haven FEC in Central Harlem hosted a Make Your Own Emoji event to give children a hands-on way to express their feelings, practice communication, and build confidence. They also host Core Conversations, a space for child, youth, and parents and caregivers to express their opinions while enjoying a fulfilling meal, in addition to reoccurring age-appropriate movie nights for families. Again, there are more examples of how this protective factor expresses in offerings in the written testimony. Besides activities that directly strengthen families, FECs partner with local resources to facilitate families' access to other services and supports that the model is not intended to provide, specifically more specialized or clinical supports, or to collaborate on events that lean on community partners' expertise and resources. For example, the 7 FEC in Jackson Heights hosted a series of 7 Ways to Connect events, each building families' awareness and access to other local and trusted family support programs, including case management, mental health, childcare, housing, and domestic violence supports. FECs are deliberate in how they build partnerships to support their community priorities. They engage with local entities, leaders, and institutions. As FECs continue to mature, they broaden and deepen their relationships to increase visibility and awareness. For example, many FECs already partner closely with the local elected officials, inviting them to co-host events such as backpack drives, holiday gatherings, and resource fairs. And I will hand the testimony to Associate Commissioner Kessler.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, FECs are community-led and individualized to meet the differing dreams and needs of each community. The ACS FEC team plays a critical role in providing traditional budget oversight support and high-touch technical assistance and coaching to promote quality of each FEC in alignment with the model standards and its intended outcomes. Historically, FECs had a baseline annual budget of $550,000 with an additional $100,000 added to their first-year budget to support with startup expenses, including site construction, design, and decorations. As of this fiscal year, and with the addition of city initiatives to increase pay for contracted human and social service staff, like the workforce enhancement and COLA initiatives, the average fiscal year 26 FEC budget increased to $595,000. This budget supports the FEC site's rent, staff salaries and fringe, as well as OTPS items to support ongoing FEC offerings and direct supports for FEC families and community members. FECs are required to have a full-time director, at least one, but up to 2 community liaisons, at least 1, but up to 2 family advocates, a part-time quality assurance and continuous improvement staff person, and a supervisor of the director from the provider agency. In the fall of 2023, ACS released FEC model standards to provide a roadmap to guide the startup and quality implementation of an FEC. The model standards clearly outline requirements for core components of the model and its intended outcomes, including expectations for co-designing the site and its offerings, hiring and training staff, conducting community outreach, and developing community partnerships and resources to support FECs and its families. Despite FECs being in different stages of maturation due to our staggered approach to expansion, all adhere to the same model standards, and the ACS team works closely with each FEC to provide differentiated technical assistance, coaching, and hands-on on-site support to promote quality implementation. The ACS FEC team is also in the process of building and testing continuous learning and quality improvement practices. This includes developing testing new tools to collect data across all FECs, testing ways to surface and reflect on insights in partnership with FEC teams, testing ways, identifying and sharing emerging best practices, and setting individual and system-wide goals for quality improvement based on what we learn. These emerging approaches will ensure that the FEC model and the support ACS provides is continuously refined to strengthen families and communities as intended. It is difficult to fully capture the spirit in FEC in writing. You truly have to experience it. We are including pictures at the end of this testimony to help give some flavor to the text, and we have shared stories throughout this testimony to do the same. But truly, to appreciate an FEC, you must visit. We know that the FECs partner with local elected officials and community partners, so I know that many of you here today have been to your local FEC. If you haven't yet, I invite you to visit an FEC in your district. Walk in, have a cup of coffee, talk with parents and staff. You will see families supporting each other, neighbors building connections, and children thriving. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess let's jump right into some of these questions. I would like to acknowledge Councilmember Linda Lee, who has joined us. The 2024 RFP includes a general description of FEC programming supporting the participants. Can you explain the design of the programming, the goals, and some of the outcomes?
Sure, I'll start and hand it to Marcus to go in a little bit more depth. So the requirements of the FEC are a bit different than many city contracts. We don't require specific programming. Instead, what we require is that FEC contractors work directly with community members to design the what we would call offerings, but the programming that happens at the centers. What we do require is that those offerings are driving towards the 5 protective factors, which we talked about in our testimony. And that's because this program is really rooted in the evidence around those protective factors driving towards better child development outcomes, stronger family connection and bonding, and overall reduction in risks around things like maltreatment. So that is essentially the design of the program, but it means that each FEC is doing slightly different activities to reach those outcomes.
And I'll just give a few more examples to give some flavor to what those offerings look like when they are supporting the growth of protective factors. So in testimony, we mentioned a few examples of concrete support. But in terms of offerings that support parental resilience, again, this is helping parents cope with stress and bounce back from challenges. I'd like to raise an example from Brooklyn, Rise Up FEC in Sunset Park. They host ongoing offerings called Weaving Connections, where participants, including parents and caregivers, practice self-care, stress management, and learn skills to cope with real emotions while weaving to strengthen the resilience in fabrics. Another example in Brooklyn is at Our Tent of Midwood and Flatbush. They host workshops on the mind, body, and soul to support well-being and to create discussion spaces where parents and caregivers are encouraged to share their thoughts, emotions, and personal experiences. Some other examples I'll just say in terms of social emotional competence of children. Again, this is creating environments that support positive social skills, emotional regulation, and problem solving. In East Side Seoul, the FEC in East Harlem, they host regular creative workshops that give space for youth and parents to express their emotions, build confidence, and find their voice.
I just want to say, I think, to me, it's always important to make sure that not just the FECs, but all programs should be community driven. So I just want that to be on the record. I think it is important. And a person who's run programs, I understand that, like, making sure that community voices and parents' voices and young people voices should always be at the center of it. We know that's not the case. And so I do appreciate that FECs, that is like the focal. But can you describe how ACS monitors whether those offerings are truly community driven? Because I think it's a lot easier said than done, and rather than agency driven. I know I've spoken to, and again, everyone loves to just talk about the uniqueness of these programs. 'Cause all of them are different, but again, if it's rooted in community, it's not different. And so, like, I think it's always, people like to say that. But can you give examples of successful offerings? I know you gave some examples around the offerings, but talk more about, like, how did they get to that process of getting the community involvement? Because I think it's also important for other people to hear that, because again, that is how all programs should be built, from community and doing that work.
Yeah, I'll talk in broad strokes and then I'll hand it again to Marcus to go a little bit deeper. So we do monitoring in a few different ways. We actually collect data in a monthly report, which Marcus can walk through, but part of the information we're collecting is the level to which community was involved in developing the offering and or implementing the offering, which we expect to grow over time. When an FEC first starts, they're just building trust with community. So it would be very natural that they might just be getting ideas from community and then the staff is taking on implementation. One of the things that we work very hard at along with our FEC partners, but this is an area for growth, is as they are implementing for more and more years and have more community members that are coming back over and over again, that those community members start to take leadership roles in the actual implementation of the work. And then that information that we collect through reporting needs context. And so we are in very high touch on a regular basis. Our program managers are in contact with their FEC, with the staff at the particular FECs in their portfolio, and are doing site visits. So Marcus can talk a little bit more about what that looks like.
Yeah, sure. So because offerings are such a critical part in how FECs strengthen families, we have a report called an offering log. This log describes things like the date of offerings, how offerings were intended to strengthen families through building protective factors, but also it includes how offerings are planned with families and the extent to which offerings are planned from the input of families on the advisory council, community members at large, or even other community partners. Generally, we use something like the offering log to see how well FECs are doing in implementing these offerings to strengthen families, but as Liz said, also to understand the extent to which co-design is happening in the offerings themselves are community-driven. Some data for you on this. Since January 2025, about 3,700 offerings have occurred across all 29 FECs. On average, about 35 family and community members participate in each offering. That's tens of thousands of community members. About 16% of these offerings were designed with advisory council members. A reminder that advisory councils are not always formed early on in implementation, so not all FECs have them yet. But 56% of these offerings were designed with community members separate from the advisory council as part of brainstorming, planning, and implementing the offering. Additionally, 41% of offerings were designed with community partners. These are community entities and trusted partners throughout the community.
The last thing I'll add is that, and then the commissioner wants to jump in, I'm sorry, is that we also train on a model called appreciative inquiry, which is essentially a way of co-designing with community. So we are not handing over these contracts and then saying, go figure out how to get community voice. We're trying to give some tools that are flexible, but the idea is that instead of approaching families about where your deficits are, where your needs are, though that comes up as trust is built, it is really about starting to dream with community that walks in the door. What do you want to see in this space? Where are you interested in leading? And then very concretely leading that towards planning. So that's the way that their voice is sort of entering the spaces through that particular model.
And to your point about how do we know, do you guys want to describe a little about how the program staff is embedded? So the team, at the ACS team is very regularly on site and coordinating with the each local FEC. Do you want to describe that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, the ACS FEC program management team has very strong, trusting, deep relationships with their counterparts at each FEC that they help manage and support. They are having regular conversations, open and honest conversation about what's working well and where FECs need support. This is happening through monthly meetings, but sometimes they're even happening weekly or biweekly. But it also happens through on-site visits. And unique to, I think, the partnership between the ACS team and FECs is the FEC teams are actually inviting their ACS managers often to their sites to help plan events, to meet community members and community partners. And it's during those site visits that our FEC teams are also observing how FEC staff are partnering with community members to implement the activity, event, or offering, and often are invited to the actual planning processes as well to contribute as members of the communities, but also as ACS supportive figures.
And just as you guys are talking to, and just even thinking about the model, and again, like centering community, and a lot of these are attached to other organizations that often don't operate in that space. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like with the organization? Because you guys know I do my due diligence, so I have heard from some birdies that sometimes there are some conflicts on how FECs run and function, and they are sometimes independent entity, and they should be ran as independent entity, but that's in contrast of what some of the bigger organizations that they fall under have.
Yeah, it can absolutely be a learning curve when an organization that's got other programming that functions in a different way take on a family enrichment center. That is absolutely true. Part of the reason that we created these standards was that through the piloting work and through the early phases of implementation, we learned a lot about what needed to be sort of put down on paper in terms of a guide towards high quality implementation. And that includes what the role of the backbone organization is in supporting the Family Enrichment Center. So we have not only high touch contact with the FEC staff that's on site, but also with their direct line supervisors and executive directors, to the extent that the supervisor is not the executive director, about the work that we are doing and what we are asking of them in terms of support of the FEC. One of the key things is making sure that there is visibility and some autonomy over the budget that is other than the personnel and rent pieces of the budget. We want to make sure that the FEC director and staff and the Parent Advisory Council and other deeply involved community members have a say in how that funding is spent, because if you're going to be designing what the offerings look like, that needs to be tied to budget. So that's an example of how we are making sure that those requirements are clear. But it is something that we continue to work on, making sure that we are really hearing from the backbone organization and FEC staff so that we can hit the right balance of supporting both.
I would just add, Chair, that the FEC organizations as a cohort are also learning together. We see this sort of as an evolution together, and we're really excited that almost half of the FECs, I think if my count is right, it's about 13, are new to ACS contracts. And so they're offering something that perhaps some providers who are more traditionally connected to ACS may or may not have, depending on the structure of their organization. But the cross-learning is something that's really important to us as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing, because I've talking to some folks and they have been working together. I mean, we had a Bronx-wide FECs, which I thought was
Yes,
great.
thank you for that.
To bring everybody together, and it just kind of it was great to see how a lot of them are already working and talking together. And again, I think all programs should be doing that, but I guess we'll take it one step at a time.
And we're doing our best to listen to community directly too. When we hear concerns about the way an FEC has a particular program, we are very responsive to that. Obviously, we want to hear the FECs and the Community Advisory Board's perspective on that, but to bring everyone together to make sure that everyone's needs are being met.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm big on collective impact, and I feel like especially we don't have unlimited resources, but we do have resources. And so not just with the FECs, but like other programs, how are we all working together? So, I like that the FECs are working together and they're like own family, but like, especially for me, it's always thinking about how are we connecting these to the community center and all the things and the food drives, like how are we collectively working together? And so, it's nice that, it's already embedded in this group. And so for me, it's like, how do we continue to expand that and continue to do that work? Can you walk me through how ACS determines which offerings are most needed in each community and how families are involved in shaping that process?
So ACS doesn't determine which are most needed. We contract with CBOs that are really deeply rooted in community because we know that they've got sort of the most trust going into launching an FEC to be able to get authentic feedback from community members. You know, again, we are really interested in monitoring, partnering, providing technical assistance around that you're getting community feedback, that feedback is substantive, that it deepens and deepens over time as you mature as a family enrichment center. And we are interested in the fact that your activities are driving towards those protective factors that we know lead to better outcomes. But we don't prescribe what the mix looks like exactly. I will say, as the family enrichment centers get deeper into their work, we do use the information that we're getting and intend to, as we get farther along in the later cohorts, to make sure that there is a mix of targeting all 5 protective factors, because we know from research that when families are strengthening all of those things at once, that's when the best outcomes come, but we don't prescribe specifics around the programming.
How does ACS measure success across 30 sites? Are there standardized outcome metrics beyond attendance and satisfaction? Because I am big on like, how do we make sure what are the goals? How do we make sure this is working? And I think also programs that have the data to back it up gives it strength. And I never like programs that we're not collecting data on, because it's easy. That's the easiest way for programs to be eliminated. And so I want to make sure that, you know, if we're saying it's working and this is something we want to continue, and with this huge expansion, how do we continue to collect data, especially when it's often, you know, when you speak to a lot of the FEC folks, they're like, we're all our own individual selves and we're separate. And I'm like, we also have to talk about how do we work collectively too. So love to hear some about like the data.
Sure. I'll first say that because we are in this phased scale up, we are very focused on driving from the evaluation that we did in 2019, which really showed it worked, right? Like we heard parents saying, yes, I've seen these factors strengthen in myself and create.
And this was 2019 when there were 3.
When there were 3. And so all to say,
I just wanted to make sure we stopped and pointed that out, because
Yep.
it's, you know, it's easier to manage 3 now. 30.
100%, which is exactly where I'm going, which is that we are really focused on making sure that we are implementing toward fidelity so that the model looks the way we knew it worked from those 3. And then we need to think in the years ahead about like, how do we go deeper into evaluation versus understanding that implementation is faithful to the model. And Marcus can talk about what we collect now and how we use it.
Thank you. Because I think of the rapid expansion and because of our efforts in building this infrastructure for coaching and continuous learning, we're always testing new ways to collect information and testing new ways to make meaning of that information with our FEC partners, and then glean and surface lessons learned from that learning that then inform our approach. But more broadly, I think during this time of rapid expansion and development, we're really thinking about success in terms of families showing up, right? This is a completely voluntary program. Families do not need to be there, and they are deciding to spend their time in an FEC. And so in the log I mentioned earlier, where each FEC is submitting to ACS all their documented offerings for the previous month, they are in those logs explaining to us who showed up. And not with personally identifiable information, but based on broad age brackets, and about how many people showed up. So that is success for us to see the number of people showing up. And not only that, but they're coming back. We hear from our FEC partners that once families come, they're often returning. And when they return, they're bringing friends and family. That to us is an indicator of success. Beyond that, we're having conversations and learning from the logs about what that engagement looks like with families at the FECs and during offerings, and making sure that they're co-designed. Another indicator of success is not only of the high volume of families showing up and that they're coming back and bringing friends, but they're actually deciding to spend their time in showing up to create opportunities and supports for other families, not even just their own. And I think that speaks a lot about the relationships that are being formed, the trust that's being formed at the FEC, and the larger goals of the FEC to become community-driven.
Okay.
I was just going to add that in that information, we are looking for not just sort of the binary of like, yes, community participated in planning this or no, they didn't, but the level of depth of their engagement, which is also a signal to us, are we being successful in putting community voice first and having real community planning and direction? I will say that one of our major goals is to get to a place where we are not only hearing community voice in the planning and implementation, but that there is then that feedback on the back end, to your exact point about like, what is their feedback about what's working, what's not working, how the offerings are meeting their needs, and that's sort of the next phase of our quality assurance that we're building out.
Yeah, I just again, because right now we have a commissioner who I believe that believes in this work, understands this work, and is fighting for this work. But if that's not the case, I want to make sure that these things stand the test of time. I won't always be here as well, and so this is another person who believes in this work and fights for this work, but that might not be the case soon or whenever. So for me, I always want to make sure that programs that we're saying that are needed and that are important and that are producing the things that we want to see, then we need to like kind of just like tighten it up, because I've sat in other hearings where folks have said like that ain't enough. And so it just puts us in a vulnerable situation, especially because it's still, compared to ACS, it's a tiny, tiny program. And it's one of the things that for me, I understand that the importance of it and the community piece being driven and being back in the community and places to get services so that they don't need to have a case is so important. I want to make sure that we are collecting the right data to make sure that we have some stability and proof in it. Because I don't want all this effort to be put in with this expansion, and then in 4 years they're like, you know what, it's small and we got to do a peg, and now we're done.
Couple thoughts on that, Chair. Couldn't agree with you more. Obviously, as Marcus said, we don't collect personally identified data because we want to be careful that this is not felt, seen, or is surveillance in any way, and that families feel really welcome walking in. And that leads to a challenge, but we're navigating it through the ways in which we describe it, really trying to get deep on what people's experiences, and ultimately, as it relates to expansion, cuts, et cetera, if we're successful in truly listening to community and they own it, I have a lot of faith that it'll continue, whether or not there's somebody who is particularly supportive or not. I think most important is that the community would stand up and say, these are deeply important and we cannot let them go. I know that's not a guarantee, but that's sort of where we're putting our investment to make sure that the community owns these and that will be heard.
I agree. But even with that, then civic engagement should be part of the conversation. And that's not. I mean, even when we had a meeting with some of the FECs, they didn't understand the process. So I'm not sure how do we even connect those dots, right? Like, I think that is exactly how we keep programs where we have community being at the forefront. But like, they were like, well, what's the process? Even around the hearing where it was like, we weren't notified. I was like, well, ACS was notified, right? And so how do we then incorporate that to even add to some of the data around what does that look like? Right? Like, when I've had conversations with some of them, they're like, oh, we want, more budget. They should be at the budget hearings talking about that and all those different things. So I know we have 3 goals, but maybe one of the other pillars needs to be like, what does civic engagement look like, so that we can also make sure that the community is engaged while they're out there doing the work. And so, again, my goal is to think about, we appreciate this model. I just want to make sure that it's long lasting. And so that's, one of my goals and push.
And if I can just say thank you for pushing that, because obviously you made a huge impact on making sure that this is known to the council, that the process is known. And so the convening that you held in the Bronx with the borough president, we appreciate it.
I met with some of FECs and they was like, our people know. I'm like, no, they don't. Listen, people who know, but everybody don't know. And we really need to make sure that people understand this work. The piece that's community driven to me is so important and actually is missing from so many of our programs. And so for me, I want to make sure that we're uplifting this model so that like this isn't an anomaly, that this is the standard. Like that should be the standard for every program that's in every community, that it is community driven and that the work is actually going out to make the community active. And so honestly, for me, just the model itself is something that we need to be duplicating.
Thank you.
The youth services, the youth studies evaluation found that FEC improves social support in families and function. Has ACS conducted any updated evaluation since 2020 to assess outcomes from the expanded sites?
No, not yet. As we were saying before, I think we need to get to a place where we are fully rolled out and implementing to be able to do that type of evaluation, but completely heard on the concerns around sustainability.
I would like to acknowledge Councilmember Joseph, who has joined us. The FEC expansion plan memorandum says FECs will provide monthly reports to ACS. Can you provide more information on what's included in the monthly report?
This is the monthly report that I've mentioned a couple of times now. This is the offering log, and we've been implementing this revamped version of the monthly report for about a year now. And just to say a little bit more about that report, beyond indicating the offerings that occurred at each FEC in the past month and the ways in which the offering was intended to strengthen families, there's a little bit more information about the extent to which it's co-designed, but also who the intended audience was in terms of roles in families or age demographics versus those that actually showed up. Who were community partners that were involved in co-hosting or planning that event, so we can start to build as a system and within boroughs hubs of information around partnerships. And we also learn a little bit about the partnerships and relationships that occurred in the event and what the lessons learned were for moving forward. Those logs are used in our ongoing coaching to individual FECs, but also they're used to surface patterns and trends across all FECs that we share out in meetings we have with all of the directors and reflect together on what that data means and how it's contextualized in the work they do and what it might mean for changes or improvements in the future.
What metrics exist for families or community members to provide ongoing input or log complaints about FECs?
So I think, again, through the ongoing conversations we have with the FEC directors and the site visits we make routinely, the FEC team at ACS is frequently engaging with community members and learning from them about their experiences. Oftentimes that means we're hearing very positive things. Sometimes that means we're hearing ways that an FEC could be doing work in different ways or could improve. Those conversations and that feedback is highly valued and often integrated into the ongoing coaching that our managers have with their FEC directors and the teams. You wanna say more?
I'll also say that in addition to what ACS gets feedback on, the FECs themselves are on a regular basis seeking parent feedback and family feedback on the offerings and work that they are doing. Each family enrichment center has a part-time staff or consultant that does quality assurance and quality improvement, and embedded in that body of work is getting that family feedback on the work that's happening. And so we sometimes do see that feedback leads to adjustments in the way that offerings are implemented, if not fully changing what the offering is, or helping make choices and decisions between what is offered.
How does ACS ensure that FECs are culturally and linguistically responsive to the population they serve, particularly immigrants and multilingual families? And just also like communities change, like the dynamics change so quickly, right? Like when I look at my district, we have a growing rapid West African population that sometimes gets overlooked. And how are we then pushing the FECs to kind of move with those trends?
Yeah, it can be a challenge because it's a small staff, right? So we've only got 4 to 5 people on site at any given time. We do have requirements around hiring for those languages that are predominant. I hear you, and I agree very much that those trends can change very quickly. But by and large, FECs are trying to hire for the most spoken languages in the community. Do you want to add any?
Yeah, I'll just say a little bit more and give a concrete example. This year we started to implement a new practice in which we're meeting with the leadership of each FEC team at the start of the fiscal year, both to reflect back on the previous year and to set some goals for the new year. And a common theme surfacing so far with those meetings is thinking about how the demographics of families in communities are changing, and how FECs can start thinking about more intentionally identifying the families that are part of that demographic change and figuring out how they can better connect and bring those families to the FEC. In addition to that, I think this is the beauty of co-design or community-driven decision-making, right? So we are often partnering with our FEC partners to think about how community voice is consistently evolving how an FEC looks, to make sure that the FEC itself embodies the look, the feel, the identity of the families it serves as it's evolving over time. And I think that inherently shows up in other aspects of the model that are co-designed as well.
And one of the things we saw is, we welcomed a lot of New Yorkers over the last couple of years of the FECs being very responsive to that community. We saw it in East Harlem. I know in your district, the Highbridge program is serving the West African community very carefully. So I think we're seeing signs that they're adaptable, but we absolutely agree that we got to stay focused on that. And as things shift, to make sure that we're learning about those adaptations and incorporating into the model.
Yeah, because I mean, especially one, we've already acknowledged that the FECs have a small staff. And when you are in the trenches kind of just doing the work, it's kind of hard to monitor that, right? And so I would love to know if are there any like mechanisms or check-ins that is being done to kind of like help even with that? Because again, it is a tiny but mighty staff. So how do we give them that support so that that's not another thing that we're putting on their plate to do?
I'll just say in these check-ins that I referenced, we were often talking with FEC leaders to think about how they can really leverage the expertise of their community members that are attending the FEC, the members on their advisory council, who are experts in their communities and who see the shifts in demographics to say who is showing up to an FEC and who's not, and why are they not showing up, and how can we reach them? So it's really been about collectively, as a system FEC, sharing ideas for how we work with community members to identify those families and then really tailor outreach to try to reach them.
Yeah, because that does concern me, right? Because again, like so many folks, always talk about the Latino population in my district, but like it has to be very specific on how you engage some of the West African families to be a part of programs like this.
Yeah.
And so, I just want to make sure that like again we are like thinking about that and giving the FECs the support and tools to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
And to continue to have that at the front of mind. One of my favorite questions, what I ask, I feel like at every hearing, is always like, how does ACX coordinate with other city agencies like DYCD, who has a host of programs, DOHMH, DSS, and other things to ensure that FEC participants can connect with these other resources that sometimes just I don't feel like are connecting. So how do we, and what are we doing around that?
Yeah, I'll start by saying so much of that is happening at the community level, where community members are sharing different resources, which programs. I obviously was fortunate enough to be part of the startup of the Hunts Point FEC, Our Place, that was really deeply connected to the local schools, the Beacon programs, to make sure that we are connected across systems. We're also, I think, working with the Department of Health is a place for us to also integrate. They have their clubhouse model. There's some common themes to welcoming community that we can learn together. And so as they're doing evaluation there, obviously a lot of those programs are more programmed, right? So a Beacon, as you know well, or Cornerstone, they're very, very fully programmed. This is a different model that allows for a lot more development. But those are key. Obviously, if someone walks in, as an example, there's a shelter near Our Place, someone walks in, they have a young child, they can know about the Beacon that day, and they can even sort of walk over together to the school. So that, we don't have a great way of capturing it because we don't collect the data, but we also lean on our community partnerships in 11 of these communities, ACS funds, community partnerships that bring, both to your point earlier around how do we know about shifting demographics, so connecting those community partnerships, connecting to other collective impact initiatives in these neighborhoods to make sure that we're fully aware both of the services and what's happening in the community.
Yeah, because I just think, sometimes, again, how do we just make it easier for folks? And whether that's like, figuring out, making sure that the FECs have all the resources of all the things in the community, I think is super important. Like I know when the commissioner at DYCD came on, he, after I yelled for a really long time about bringing programs together, he started to do these community cluster meetings with like the shelter providers, the after school providers, the Saturday Night Lights programs, just so that they could know what was in the area. And so I think like even having cross meetings with ACS programs, like those are the things that for me, I think we have to get in the habit, because a lot of times there's talks on the top of like where the commissioners, everyone on their planning, but then when we get to the director level, they don't know this stuff. And so really want us to start thinking and being like, how are we bringing them together? I know in my district specifically, I have a bi-monthly meeting with all of my nonprofits, so they get together and have those conversations. But I think that like citywide, this practice needs to be done a little bit more, because there is some disconnect. And then how do we, again, collective impact, how are we all working towards these same goals? I have a couple more questions, and then I'll pass it over to Councilmember Joseph. So can you clarify the nature of ACS ongoing involvement once the FECs are fully operational? How are boundaries maintained to ensure the space is community oriented and to minimize the agency's involvement? Because again, I know there has been a lot of concerns, right? If I'm a parent and I am nervous that I don't want an ACS case, then why would I then walk into a FEC center that ACS operates? And so I know I've heard some concerns around that. So can you guys just, I guess, walk me through what this process looks like? And I know you're saying we don't collect information, but that sometimes gets hard too. So could we just kind of like talk through some of that? And I have a couple of questions around this.
Sure, sure. So I think one of the big things, which you highlighted at the beginning, is that these spaces are not branded with ACS and they are not branded with whatever the backbone organization is. If that's a big multi-service organization, they have a name that is chosen by community and is owned by community, which may seem small, but really it is like this slow startup process where community is involved in every step: the naming, the identifying and lease of the space, the design of the space, that creates sort of community at the front from the very beginning, even though it makes the startup process longer. We never obviously are anything but transparent about where the funding is coming from, but right from the start, ACS is involved as technical assistance and coaching, because really this model is based on work across the country, but really homegrown in New York City. So in that way, we see ourselves as sort of like the coaches of implementation, but not the drivers of decision making or vision for individual FECs or the system writ large. So that's sort of the broad strokes. Do you want to talk about the evolution of engagement for program managers as FECs mature?
Yeah, I think very early on in the early startup phases, again, we see with data that it takes about 18 months from the time in which a contract starts to when an FEC opens its doors officially to the community. During that time, because of how important we've learned it is in building some of the foundational components of an FEC, the ACS team is working very closely with the backbone organization in the development of an implementation team, again, with community members on that team. And the high touch support can be weekly, bi-weekly, meeting with that implementation team and the backbone organization leadership to really coach on the model and providing a roadmap of the key areas of the model to focus on in that first year to 2 years, which is really hiring and training a staff, which is really building slow, trusting relationships with community members, community leaders, community partners, and ensuring that decisions are being led by those community members, because when community members see their voices are valued and see them being valued as experts, they then build that trust that is necessary to ensure the success of the FECs. And often when that trust is built through these community-led decision-making processes during the foundational part of the FEC, they become the ambassadors and champions of the FEC in the community, and they are reaching other families and community members and bringing them to the FEC and helping with the trust building process writ large.
In 2021, when FEC announced its expansion of 27 new family enrichment centers, family defenders and parent advocate raised concerns that the agency could not be trusted to provide support for services because ACS staff are mandated reporters. What steps has ACS taken to address those concerns and build trust with families who have fear investigations or surveillance?
Yeah, since that time, Chair Stevens, in addition to the expansion of the FECs and the processes that Liz and Mark has laid out to make sure that there is a really clear distinction between the FECs being named by the community, being owned by the community, and a child protective investigation on the other hand. We think we've demonstrated that we can do that there's been some real success, that families understand that distinction. We've also been working very hard to change the face of the child welfare system to make sure that mandated reporters understand when a call to the state central registry is required and when some help is what is really needed. And so, and the call, they can call us, they can call other places, they can walk into an FEC, that there are options for families who are just struggling to make ends meet. We're obviously very worried about sort of the impending snap cuts in this moment, want to make sure that we get that message out, that again, the state central register is for children who may be in danger of child maltreatment. It is not for families who need some basic support. And so we've been working hard on all fronts in that regard. We understand that there's obvious fear of the power that we have to remove children. And so we are always navigating that and making sure that we're careful about when we're expanding programs, that we're trying not to expand the reach of the child welfare system. We want the child welfare system itself to be focused on where children may be in danger and need some intervention to protect them.
No, and I mean, listen, I think, again, and this is me wanting to make sure we have it on a record, I think your intentions have always been clear about trying to change the face and the trajectory and understanding, because you come from this work in a real way. But I think that there has, and we've been acknowledging a lot, the harm that has been done in specific communities that these FECs are in, that for years have felt terrorized and surveillanced and attacked from the very group that now are saying, oh, we're going to come into your community. And yes, I hear you, we're saying they have a different name and we're engaging, but I know that when I was talking to some folks, they still are very distrustful to have it, these type of programs in ACS. So I guess, can you talk a little bit about some of the firewalls that might be put up, and is there a thought or idea around possibly not having this under ACS and possibly somewhere else, like another agency?
I think the key firewall obviously is not collecting individual information and making sure that there's not a sort of surveillance aspect of this program and many other programs that we provide. This has been an ongoing conversation for a number of years. As you mentioned, RISE and other advocates have expressed concerns about ACS operating this. My perspective since coming in, whether it was related to childcare, whether it was related to the Family Enrichment Center expansion, the community partnerships, has been, I think it's important that the city continue to expand where people are voting with their feet to get those services, whether they're walking into an FEC, seeking a childcare voucher, et cetera. At the same time, we understand the concerns that folks have and that there is absolutely a fear of, and an understandable fear of, child protective investigations that sit under the same umbrella. We think it's worthwhile to explore that, to think about, I think there's advantages to thinking about a more centralized family planning for New York City, not the family planning that Planned Parenthood does, but sort of a family wellness planning, and to make sure that that's coordinated. At the same time, I do think we should make sure we are being very careful about some of the capacities that sit at ACS. My extraordinary team, backed up by their extraordinary team, is really good partners with, I think we've demonstrated at ACS we're great nonprofit partners. We get people paid on time, and we try to.
That you do.
So, and to make sure, I have mixed feelings about, the orientation of ACS and what this does to sort of the general orientation of the direction. And you want to make sure that when a CPS investigation is happening, they have multiple avenues to prevention so that we don't sort of lose ground on the work that we've been doing in that regard. All that to say, at the end of the day, I think it would be worthwhile for there to be a thoughtful advocate-driven planning work around how to best organize family services in the city. And I think some of what we have brought to bear around how to ease access and how to get around, because ultimately we're not the only mandated reporters. And
That
so,
part.
we
I
have
think we
to make
forget that.
we have to make sure that we think this through very carefully. And there's a lot of people, both in this room, on my team, on your team, that I think could add a lot of value to that thinking.
I agree and thank you for, because I do think that is important. I think there's a world where both of these things can exist and probably need to exist, because again, like I acknowledged before, there has been harm done, but I think also too that also speaks to the leadership, right? If you have leadership who's not being thoughtful about how to move this work along, that sometimes happen. And I want to have it on the record again. You've done a great job of doing that, and so I do appreciate the work and the perspective that you've brought to the agency in general. I think it's what's needed, and especially in this moment, in this time. I have more questions on this, but I'm gonna pass it over to Councilmember Joseph to ask a few questions, and then I'll come back because I have quite a few more questions.
Well, thank you, Chair. Good morning. Always good to see you, Commissioner. Always happy. Thank you for the work that you do, right? In removing some of the stereotype that came with ACS. For a long time, this agency has harmed families in a way of criminalizing poverty, right? And when children are taken away from family, normally it's poverty. It's not neglect. Every parent, so in some cases it is, but in most cases it's really poverty. I can't feed my child. I don't have a safe space to live in. And we've seen that. So one of the things in your FECs, you have one in my district, the Yard, which I'm super excited to have. But one of the things we know that's connected to child poverty is also upward mobility, right? So how are these FECs building long-term stability for economic mobility, for instance, doing job fairs, workforce development, and all of those things that can help a family move out of those situations?
I'm going to ask my team to talk a little about some of those opportunities, but also come back to we are trying to make sure we're community-driven, number one, and we don't want the FECs to become the place to do it all. So back
Right.
to the chair's point around sort of lots of connections. So for some specific examples, I'm going to turn it to Liz and Marcus.
Yeah, to the commissioner's point, one of the reasons that we built into the model a community liaison that has the responsibility to making sure that there is that connectivity to other programs in the community that are doing things that include economic mobility is exactly that. An FEC can't do everything.
Right.
At the same time, many of them are doing a lot of deep work in this area. Marcus, do you want to give a couple examples?
Got to remember to turn on the microphone. Sure. So in the testimony, we highlighted the Yard, the FEC in your district, and how they are frequently partnering with other city programs like Workforce One to provide financial empowerment offerings, but also those that provide pathways to employment and educational attainment or growth. In Queens, the Bridge FEC in Rockaway and Broad Channel partners with SUNY's Attain Lab to offer families access to free self-paced skill-building courses, certifications, career and academic supports for families seeking employment and educational advancements. Another great example is in August, the Point FEC in Flushing, Briarwood, Queens partnered with an org called Include New York City to host a workshop to support parents and caregivers and young people in navigating resources by the New York State Office of People with Developmental Disability that prepares students for adult life and new education, employment, and independent living settings. So these are all ways in which FECs are, with their community members, deciding to grow families' access to concrete support, not only to stabilize families, but also to promote their mobility. In their testimony, you also heard from our commissioner that concrete support offerings were those that were most offered throughout the city in fiscal year 25, and those that on average were most attended. So it's very much work that is happening.
And how do you partner with New York City Public Schools to make sure the outreach is being done to social workers, parent coordinators, that they know that these programs exist?
So I'll talk how we partner at different levels. So the ACS team, myself included, we've actually had frequent and recurring meetings with administrative staff at schools and social workers at schools to provide an overview of the FECs, to identify the FECs in their neighborhood and talk a little bit about how they can support their children and families in accessing those FECs by contacting the directors and by walking in to have coffee and make connections. Separate from that, a lot of our FECs with their advisory council members and their community members are partnering with the schools in their neighborhoods. They're attending parent leader meetings, they're meeting with social workers, and they're understanding from those meetings what the needs, wants, desires, and dreams of those families are, and creating offerings to support them.
And Chair Joseph, Chair of the Education Committee, we're also in the trainings that I know you know well that we've been doing for teachers, for guidance counselors, and others. The FECs are included in the type of supports that are available in many of the communities. And so, in addition, every time we initiate a child protective investigation, I just wanted the committee to be aware that we're including a packet of resources that goes to the family. That includes local pantries, if there's a local FEC, and to making sure that families know that is a resource in their neighborhood. We've seen, as you know, from those trainings, a real increase in calls to our support line. Sometimes that support line will also offer the FEC location in the neighborhood. I didn't mean to run out the clock.
No, and we just hate the clock.
Yes, we're in a very fancy new room. I like it.
So how do you evaluate the type of services you provide in a community when you do open FECs?
Sure. So we're looking at a couple of things. One, because we are an early startup of this phased out implementation, we are really looking to ensure that FECs are driving towards fidelity of implementation. We learned a lot from the years we've been implementing so far. We've put that down into standards to help FECs know what implementation should look like, and we are coaching and providing technical assistance around that. Because this is a program where we aren't prescribing the exact activities that happen, but rather the outcomes we want to be driving towards and the front end co-design and work with community, those are the things that we are looking most closely at. Marcus can talk a little bit about the way that we collect that information and the types of metrics we look at.
Sure. This is going back to the monthly offering log that I've mentioned previously, and that is really used as a tool for FEC teams to document the offerings occurred each month in their attempts to strengthen families. And in those offering logs, we're hearing about their partnerships with not only families and the planning and implementation of those offerings, but their partnerships with the community organizations and entities that might co-host an offering or add their expertise to offer to families during those offerings. And we use those collectively to talk about systems trends or patterns that we all talk about in a sort of learning space, but we also use those individually between manager and FEC director to talk about what's going really well in terms of the offerings being community driven and where there might be growth opportunities in the months to come.
And one of the important things I'll say, maybe redundant of what I said before, but like we really think about the data as a complement to the context that we're getting through that close touch relationship with the contracted provider agency, which is why we're collecting information to help us learn, but also to make sure that there is a feedback to coaching technical assistance, both across the FECs, as Marcus is saying, but also for individual family enrichment centers. So we're using that information to have conversations about where an individual FEC is in their growth trajectory and set goals for the year to come, whether that be we really have a goal around diversifying offerings to hit more of the protective factors. We really have a goal around reaching other parts of our community that we're not already reaching. We see that we have a lot of, for example, Latino families coming in the door, but not a lot of West African families that are in our community. So that's the way in which we really look at the data, but also make sure that it is put into use for continuous improvement.
Can I just make one note too, because I want to make sure I represent our FEC partners really well, and knowing how important and how valued community-driven decision-making is when thinking about offerings. It's not always a home run. It's not always a success, and it's really hard, actually.
Right.
And we often hear from our providers that bringing together community members that represent very different demographics and experiences in their neighborhoods and trying to build consensus and make decisions can be messy and can be hard.
Who are you telling?
And so I just don't, yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to pretend like from these reports everything is great and that like they're doing just fine. They're often leaning on us for support, and they're leaning on their colleagues who are running other FECs to talk about how they handle disagreement amongst their community meetings and how they support the advisory councils.
I
in
think
managing
that's where I think they
disagreement.
should be leaning into their council members, because I think literally that's our job.
Yeah.
That's all we do is try to manage all of the different personalities in our very large district. So I think if folks have questions, lean into us.
Yes.
Great.
A lot of restorative justice and meditation. I'm gonna close out. Thank you, Chair. Each client comes in, do they get a survey to see where you are? Because you said that data drives a lot of the work that you do and how to fix it, how to make it better. And a lot of our immigrant communities is trust. They have to trust you to walk through the door. Some of them, they don't like a handout, so you can't make them feel like this is a handout, but empower them. So we get that a lot. To come to the door to get something, it's a lot. It's like, no, I don't think so. Save it. It's not for me. We're not used to that. So I think it also has to do with trust, and we have to get them to the front door and make them feel comfortable and empower them.
Yeah, I feel like you've written the advertisement for the FECs perfectly. Often the family enrichment centers will tell us that they use offerings that are about social connection and not about getting something as the sweetener. It gets folks in the door, it gets them feeling like they're part of a community and gets them to be part of that community. And then as that trust is built, slowly families are revealing what they actually might need. But some of them also have regular offerings that give out concrete needs, but it is always done in a way that is centering dignity. So, and I'm forgetting if the yard has one, but many of the family enrichment centers, for example, have a clothing closet, but it isn't boxes where you're rummaging through to get just leftovers. They have standards of quality for the types of clothes that they're taking. They set it up like a boutique so that you have the experience of shopping. So everything that's done, even when it is a concrete provision of service or good, is done with really that humanity in mind.
Yeah, I have to give it to the yard. That's exactly how their closet's set up. It looks like you're going shopping. The shoes are in a box, the clothes are hanging in a hanger, and it looks like it's compassion and dignity and love, right? That's how you want to serve the community. So thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. So one of the next question I have is around small businesses and entrepreneur. When I was talking to some of the providers, I heard that was one of the tailors that they had, and there was some funding around that, and I'm hearing that there's no longer funding for that. And I'm trying to figure out how do we advocate to not only get that funding, but also have it available to all the FECs, because I heard it was such a good experience for a lot of the providers, and some small businesses was created. And this was one of the things that the FECs, when I've spoken to them, said that they want to make a priority.
Yeah. Well, as Marcus was talking about before, economic mobility work is still very much core to the model under the umbrella of concrete support. And so some of that work is still happening. There was a particular grant from the Doris Duke Foundation that went to 3 of the family enrichment centers, which sunset. And so within budget, we are very happy to support this ongoing work, and a lot of the family enrichment centers are doing it. And we also often partner on seeking additional funding, but encourage, as you've mentioned, some of these FECs are part of larger organizations that have strong development arms. We certainly encourage family enrichment centers, along with their backbone organizations, to go after additional funding that can supplement bigger initiatives that might not fit under the sort of concrete umbrella of the family enrichment center. So we're supportive of that entirely.
Is part of the contract for the bigger organization to kind of do some of that work to support that, or is that something that is just encouraged? Because I think there's a difference if we like kind of mandate that than if we're like, well, you can. Because a lot of organizations are already doing a lot of fundraising to supplement a lot of the contracts that the city does that doesn't fully fund them. Don't get me started, because I will go on a tangent. But if that's the case, is that part of the contract already, or is that just like something that we're saying because it sounds good? Because if it's not, I think we should definitely make that part of it.
We don't require a match, so we don't require fundraising
I'm not asking for a match, because like one of the things that I've been trying to do is like trying to encourage when we even have RFPs and they have like these small organizations that come in to do the work, and it sounds nice, right? But like, how do we make sure that they're also benefiting? So is there other benefits they should be doing? Because I think it should be encouraged that if they are fundraising, that it doesn't have to be a match, but they should be bringing in additional funding because essentially these FECs are kind of smaller organizations in a bigger organization. And so how do, if the goal, and I don't know if the goal is for them to be more independent and not be under these big organizations, which probably should be the goal. But if that is, like, how are we setting up these FECs to kind of like stand alone and having, if you're under this big organization, how are they then required to support them other than, honestly, it kind of sounds more like a fiscal conduit situation.
So one of the ways is the city has been reimbursing at the indirect cost rate. So we've added the COLA, which has more obviously to do with the direct staff, and so that pays for the administrative pieces that the backbone provider is, and included in that can be some element of development. As Liz was referencing too, we have relationships with different foundations, and so we can do some collective fundraising. So in a way, we are providing for some of that support, but we'll look more deeply at your recommendation.
Yeah, I love us to kind of think that through, because I'm like, what are these bigger organizations doing? Because like, right, y'all have some who would do that, and like, especially I know, even with like when I was talking with some of the foster care, there's inequities among agencies. And so I don't want us to get to a place as we're expanding the FECs for there then to be so much inequities amongst them. Because if you have organizations that are like really ingrained and believe in this work, they'll go out there and they'll do the fundraising and and then those FECs are start to be built up while others might not be getting that same support. And so I think we should really be thinking about, because this expansion happens so quickly, how do we make sure that we keep up with what the need is? And sometimes we have to require for our organizations to do those things and require for it to be part of the contract, because if not, it'll kind of fall on the wayside. And I guess even for this around the entrepreneur, will this be asked for some of the new needs, especially because from my knowledge, and I'm sure when the FECs come to testify, then they're going to be talking about it too, that this business entrepreneurship program was really successful and they want to see it continue. So will this be a new need that I'll hear at the budget this year?
I can't speak to that yet, but we're going to be listening.
Maybe it should be.
We're going to be listening.
It out there in the ether.
Yeah, we're going to be listening carefully to folks' testimony today, and we'll certainly take that all into consideration.
So all of my FEC providers who are here today, who are testifying, my hope is that when you get here, that you are talking about the success and the things that you want to hear as new needs. And then in January, I mean, when is executive? When is the budget stuff? What is that? November? No. Yeah, the November plan that you guys, no, I'm talking about next budget, that you guys are talking about this at my budget hearing in, I believe, what's that?
That's in March.
In March, yes. So in March, all of you will be back in here to talk about all the things you want to be funded. Just to go back to some of the questions regarding like ACS involvement, as you know, advocates have been working on a vision for a comprehensive, holistic approach to family support that would be disconnected from ACS. Can you share what you think might be the benefits of a city entity outside of ACS that is wholly dedicated to family, for family well-being? What has ACS led to prevent supports for this planning?
Yeah, Chair, I think we got there early. And so, just share what I was sharing earlier, that we think it is really important that we take seriously the access for families to services. And we absolutely understand that there's been harm, and we also understand that even as you resolve some of that or reconcile some of that and improve practices, no matter what, we are the agency who has the power to remove children. And there's always going to be a fear associated with that, and a very understandable one. And so we've taken a number of steps in the work that we've done in the FECs, the community partnerships, obviously our childcare work, to make sure that families understand the distinction between that. We think that families are clearly voting with their feet to come to the FECs and the childcare. So we feel like we've had some success there. At the same time, we don't know who's not coming. And so we take seriously that we have to, we're very open to a conversation about how this gets organized citywide. As I mentioned earlier, I think there's a lot of complexities around sort of funding and procurement and ways in which we have to make sure we don't lose the quality for families as we build something. And it, sometimes I've seen small things kind of peter out. So we're encouraging as sort of comprehensive a thinking as possible here. And I also think as part of that thinking, we have to make sure that the orientation of ACS remains trying to get to families as early as possible and avoiding access to the child welfare system. So that work, we're doing some really interesting work with the health department to try to align our work around early childhood attachment and maternal health, and some resources that we're going to be providing there because they are really the sort of more appropriate deliverer of those services. So this is something we've been thinking about because the advocates have been recommending this for some time. And as mentioned earlier, I felt after listening to those recommendations, it's important for us to be part of a planning process that's really community-led, and we can inform that. But at the same time, did not want to stop making sure that the supports that the city has to offer families in no way pause them because it's not in the perfect situation right now. So a complicated set of thoughts, and I encourage a citywide planning on this.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely need to keep pushing and figuring out a plan because I do agree, like, sometimes the idea sounds good, but then moving it could be worse off because now they're isolated. And again, for me, it's about how do we protect this in longevity, and what does that look like? And so making sure like we're very methodical about putting together that plan is to me going to be really important. What specific lessons has ACS learned about reducing the need of agencies' involvement and rebuilding trust with communities that historically been has historically had issues with ACS?
Yeah, I think this is a question more broad than the FECs, but inclusive of that. We've done a lot of work in retraining mandated reporters. Obviously, the law has remained what it is, but there's a lot more discretion and assessment for mandated reporters than we typically were training on or previously training on. And so whether that's schools or shelters or hospitals or other service providers, mandated reporters, we've done, I believe, almost 1,000 trainings to date with tens of thousands of mandated reporters to move away from the notion that the child maltreatment, child abuse, and neglect hotline is the appropriate step for a family that just needs some support, and to make sure that we created a support line at ACS that has access to services provided by ACS, but also by all city agencies and other entities, because it doesn't have to be, again, ACS that is delivering that service. So, we've learned from community that both the work that we've done in the past, how we carry out our work today, has an impact on families, and that can be a negative impact when it's not done with care and fidelity, when we're not telling parents about what their rights are. And so we've made strides in all those regards, and we have a long way to go.
What criteria did the Task Force on Racial Inclusion and Equity use to select the new FEC sites?
Yeah, this was in 2001, and it was the most impacted by COVID-19, where calls to the SCR were highest, where some of the economic disparities were the highest. Anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think even the when we even say COVID-19 pandemic, where it was the highest, I think we also need to just acknowledge that those were areas that always were historically underserved, right? And so,
Absolutely.
I just because it kind of is a cop out. I said to people over and over during the pandemic, like the pandemic only just put a spotlight on areas that already needed services, and so that to me is important for us to even acknowledge because it kind of sounds like, oh, it was hit by COVID-19. No, it was hit because services were not fair and we needed to provide it. So I just wanted to make sure I had that on the record and be clear because
Agreed.
that's important to me. Because my district was hit really hard, but that's because of lack of services and disinvestments for years, which often feels intentional. Um, what have been the most significant lessons learned from the original 3 centers, and how has that information informed the operation and design of the 27 new sites?
Yeah. I think the biggest learning is that it worked, right? The evaluation, along with the perspective of community and the original 3 FECs that we're implementing, was really important. And the data from the evaluation just backed that up. But we saw folks showing up, and we saw them saying that they really were seeing the outcomes that we thought we would be driving towards. But we also learned a lot about implementation and some amplified resources that were needed. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So we increased the budget. That was the learning. We increased the overall budget for 450,000 to 550,000 during the expansion years. On top of that, we learned that more money is needed during the first year to cover startup expenses. So in the expansion years, we added an additional $100,000 for a total of $650,000 in the first year to cover the expenses of site renovation, design, furniture, etc. We also learned that the staff are critical, and they are small but mighty staff, but they could use more. So we increased staffing of the model from 3 full-time equivalent to 4. In addition to that, we increased staffing to include a part-time quality assurance and quality improvement person.
Wait, I have a question. So you said you increased the budget by 100,000?
Yes, the baseline budget 100,000, and then we added an additional 100,000 in the first year of implementation for the FECs that expanded.
Okay, so you added an additional 100,000 for the startup, and then there was an additional 100,000. But you added how many more new staff?
1 additional full-time equivalent.
One
Yes.
additional staff.
Yes.
That's some inequities, but okay. I don't like it. We should add more money then. But continue. I'm sorry.
I think a large lesson learned that we heard from our original FEC sites, but that we continue to learn today, is the importance of slowing down. We learned that trust is built over time, and trust takes time, and so does community-driven processes. So in the early phases of expansion, I think ACS really pushed FECs to start up quickly, as we would a normal program. And from those learnings have really changed our practice in coaching FECs to say slow down, to make sure that you are reaching community members and community partners, that you're building those relationships, and that you're really valuing their voice and their expertise in the startup of the FEC and in how FECs are run thereafter.
I would just add that we also learned the importance of peer support. So ACS is absolutely a strong resource, coach, technical assistance, but the FECs need each other, and those supervising FECs from the backbone organizations need to be talking to each other. The original 3 Family Enrichment Center organizations were in lockstep, talked to one another, bounce challenges off of one another, and that was incredibly valuable. So we've really built that into the model going forward. We make sure that we are intentionally creating spaces with and without ACS, and I think you heard this in the meeting in the Bronx, right, where Family Enrichment Center staff and implementers are coming together to be able to continuously share learnings.
Does ACS anticipate further expansion beyond the 30 sites are currently contracted? And if so, how will those locations be prioritized?
Not currently. We're obviously deeply engaged in trying to get the full 30 launched and solid. And obviously, we hope, all of us that are working hard to make them strong, that as this model continues to prove effective, there's consideration for that down the road. But I think we need to make sure we're attending to this pretty massive expansion, right? A 10 times expansion, at least for the foreseeable future.
Does ACS have data comparing outcomes or engagement level between the original 3 FECs and the new ones that are coming up?
Yeah, I'll just say, based on the information I provided earlier, we use the same reporting tool across all our FECs, and we coach to the same model standards across all our FECs. The information that we get back in those reporting tools and in our ongoing conversations, though, might look a little different, because FECs in their 8th year are doing the work a little bit different than those in their 1st or 2nd year. So things like the average number of offerings happening each month for those in their 8th year is higher than those in their 1st or 2nd year, because those in their 1st and 2nd year are really focusing on some of the foundational components of their FECs so that they can later strengthen families in the way that they are meant to be. We also have conversations in a bit of a different way based on how long an FEC has been operating. So for those In later years of implementation that are more mature, we might be talking about how are you ensuring the right mix of different offerings that support different protective factors, and how deep are you going in your co-design with community members. Whereas those in our first or second year, we're really happy just to support them getting offerings off the ground. And the co-design for them might look a little different because they maybe are collecting feedback and documenting the voices of families, but the staff themselves are the one executing the offerings. So we collect the same information, coach the same standards, but the conversations we have around that data looks a little bit different based on where an FEC is.
And if I can, Chair, to the point Liz and Marcus have been making, this time, both in the startup and in the maturity of the programs over time, is really key and very unique to this model. So if we're collecting things that are done differently, right, community driven, that we're all, as public administrators, we're urgent. We want these things up. We want everyone helped, but you have to have the patience to let it really cultivate. And so I think that's something we want to make sure there's on the record too, that it's very unusual for a government contract to start. You don't have to have the site yet. You just need to start working with community, not just, but you need to start working with community. That I think I just want that on the record as well, that it's a deeply important part of how we're building success here.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask a question about my reso, and then we'll open it up to the public. But we're hearing Reso 843, which calls for the passage of state legislation that directs the New York State Education Department and the New York State Office of Child and Family Services to prepare posters and pamphlets to ensure that foster youth are made aware of the higher education financial resources available. How does ACS provide this information to youth and care about the higher education resources available to them? And again, I just want to highlight, yesterday we had Foster Youth Day here at Council, and this was the number one thing that they all talked about how, one, they also said that they would like the services to be expanded to the age 26, because it takes them a little bit of time to get things up and running. So Jess, I will be calling you about that later.
We can solve that right now. We already, sorry.
And then just of the lack of resources of like them being able to get it, they really felt that the onus is put on them to do a lot of this work, and they really want to figure out a way to have this accessible to all of them. And listen, we have technology. We should have scan codes everywhere. They can just scan and get this information when they're walking in the door. Yeah. And so, this reso always meant a lot to me, but it means even more because this was what they talked so much about yesterday. So I guess tell me about your support of this, because I know you support it. And it's just also then could we just work to make sure that these young people are getting the resources that they need?
First of all, thank you for hosting yesterday, and thank you for sharing that feedback. It's really deeply important to us. We share the perspective of our young people. On the notion of 26, we have in this most recent budget made the second investment towards having every young person in foster care be able to have a coach until they're 26. There's also baseline money in FY27 to continue to build towards that. Young people in foster care are not the only ones who need time and support over time, but they especially deserve it given what they have persevered through. And we have seen their extraordinary talent when we invest in them result in great success. We're really, really happy. Mostly through Fair Futures, we've gotten the word out about college choice, which every young person in foster care has access to. We pay not only after the FAFSA, we make sure we cover all other expenses, plus a $60 a day stipend that young people in foster care have while they're in school. And we make sure that information is getting out through lots of trusted community partnerships. The Center for Fair Futures has about over 100 organizations that they're working with, making sure we're constantly getting that information. While I can't comment specifically on the resolution, I think any way we can get information out to young people in foster care, we want to do. We think we're having some success here, but any young person who doesn't know is not acceptable to me, and so we want to keep building in that direction. And we're grateful that we now have 425 young people enrolled in college, up from 190 2.5 years ago. And we do have money in the budget to go to about 530 through the Youth Success and Safety Initiative that you were instrumental in making happen.
You know, I think I agree with your sentiments that any child who does not know the information, we're not doing our job. And so one is too many. And like I said, this was one of the number one things. But I just have a question just around my own clarity, because one of the things that they said that if you weren't enrolled in the college choice by the age of 21, that is what made you ineligible. And again, that was one of the things they said, that like the young lady said, she was like, I just didn't have it together, and now I don't have the choice of having this as an option. So is there other options in that case?
There are other ways to support college choice and soon to be career choice, which is also funded in the Youth Success and Safety Initiative, are for young people who are currently in foster care, and then we will allow them to stay past 21 in that program while they complete college. And so many young people post 21 are in that program. If someone's out of foster care today, we do not currently have the resources to put them into that program. It's something I'd like to see. And so if that's the point around the 26, well noted, and we'll take a look at ways that we can support. But I would also encourage young people to meet with their coaches. They all should have access to that. If they can't get it through their provider agency, they can reach out to the Center for Fair Futures. They can reach out to the Office of Shared Response, the Office of Advocacy, because there's lots of other ways to support school, whether that's through a lot of the offerings that CUNY have. We can help them with financial aid support. We can help them with grants and other ways to make sure we're doing everything we can, even while we don't have access to that program quite yet.
No, absolutely. And I just want to say, this was my second year doing foster care day here at City Council, because I didn't have this committee before. But I want us to then work together, so next year we could have a packet of resources to give them, so that like they can, like, all the stuff you just said. I'd forget stuff because I have a lot, but I want to be able to offer them this information. So next year, let's work together to have a package of information and resources that we can give them, so that like if they did not know, that they can come back, or if they're the center, like let's have all that information. So let's work that together. And I actually think we're
Great.
not just doing a day. We're going to be doing more stuff, because I don't like that we just do a day. I want to do more because I'm super extra. Uh,
Thank you.
So let's have a conversation offline of like some resources we can put together, so that when we have our next outing here, that we can offer that up to them, and we'll invite you.
Great.
So
And
we'll
if we
come
can
hang out with
bring
everybody.
our team and the Center for Fair Futures together, I think we'll make sure that we can do recruitment together, et cetera, et cetera.
Look at that. I'm always giving myself more work to do, and my commissioners. I love that for me. But with that, I do not have any more questions. We are going to take a quick recess, and we'll get started back up in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now I would like to open the hearing for public testimony. I would like to remind the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall always be observed. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recordings or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings for testimony, but they may submit transcripts of such recording to the Sergeant at Arms at the conclusion of the hearing. If you wish to speak today, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant of Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on today's topic hearing, evaluating ACS Family Enrichment Centers and the reso I spoke about, which is reso 843. If you have written testimony or additional testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. I will be calling my first panel, which will consist of Trevor, Nora McCaffey, Shonda Curtis, Elaine McMillan, and Elizabeth Robbins. Yes, you come to the front. So those of you who know me know that if you are a young person and you come to testify, I give you extra time, but everyone else, please watch it because I will be cutting you off. And Trevor is on the panel and he will be getting extra. They will be getting extra time. And no, this committee is children and youth. So that is what we will go with. If you want to start, you can start. You can lead the way.
Okay, I can start. Firstly, I would like to say thank you, Chair Stevens, for allowing me to come here today and testify. I appreciated your presence yesterday at the Foster Youth event. And I would like to discuss Resolution 0843, and I feel like I speak on behalf of many foster youth as someone that aged out of the system. When a lot of youth want to go to college but don't know how, this is also represented by our data. According to the New York City Foster Youth Experience Annual Survey in 2025 conducted by ACS, 77% of youth confirmed they want to enroll in college or trade school. And ultimately, only 4% can attain a bachelor's degree. This leads to questions regarding the supports we are able to provide because despite motivation being present, there's a missing piece in like the ability to attend and succeed in obtaining the bachelor's degree. And while programs such as College Choice, ETV, and FYCSI allow youth to access college, this should be required, in my opinion, to be present and visible in any foster-related facilities, including group homes, foster homes, residential facilities, and all other contracted facilities under ACS. And this resolution, while it takes action towards instructing ACS to prepare pamphlets and posters, I want to see more action taken in terms of concrete timelines, actions, requirements, and consequences if those actions were not to be met. I say this because often I have realized that there's a gap between what is discussed in places like this and what is available in group homes or a typical foster home. And ultimately, if it's not incentivized through requirements, then there is minimal reason to pursue it for most residential facilities. And the commissioner stated the availability of Fair Futures, but that is on paper available until 26. Often it's very hit and miss depending on the specific youth, the staff member, and even with Fair Futures, there can be missing information. And these services are contingent on accessing it prior to reaching 21 before aging out of care. So therefore, that missing data is what could contribute to youth not being able to complete college. So yeah.
Listen, thank you, Trevor. I want to give Trevor a round of applause up in here because let me tell y'all, yesterday he said, they said, how do I be engaged? What could I do? And then showed up again this morning. And I told them, everyone who was there yesterday, young people who have been impacted need to lead these conversations. And so all these providers out here, y'all need to get this information because somebody should be snatching them up really quickly because these are the people that needs to be in these roles in these organizations who know this work. And what he said, there needs to be real consequences when people are not following through with the things that needs to happen. So we're going to make sure that we stay connected and put you to work because you're a great advocate. So thank you.
I'm down.
I know. I'm excited. Love when we inspire the next generation. But thank you, and we'll continue with the panel. So I just had to give them a shout out because that warms my heart.
That's working? All right. Hi, good afternoon, Chair Stevens and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm Nora McCarthy, Director of the New York City Family Policy Project, and speaking today as a member of the Narrowing the Front Door Work Group. I'm testifying to share information about a new approach, a planning process that started this winter to create a new city office for family well-being that would in time include moving the enrichment centers and other primary family supports out of ACS, as you heard the commissioner speak to earlier. As the commissioner mentioned, ACS has been supportive of this planning. New York City has adopted a community approach to public safety in addition to policing. We're growing a community approach to birth justice to address maternal mortality. We also need a community approach to family support. A groundswell of advocacy groups are increasingly calling for the adoption of a public health approach to prevent, interrupt, and heal families from crises. A new City Office of Family Wellbeing can centralize and coordinate some family support programming, support community-led planning and grant-making to build on neighborhood assets and fill gaps, create new restorative approaches to family safety that prevent and de-escalate family crises, build up networks of peer support to improve access to existing services and resources, and prioritize investment and capacity building support for the grassroots organizations that families most trust. Moreover, we can fund this work by reinvesting millions in city savings from reductions in ACS spending. This work is being led by the Narrowing the Front Door Work Group in partnership with the Innovations Team and the Mayor's Office of Policy and Planning. In the coming months, we'll be workshopping our vision and blueprint for getting to implementation. This is a grassroots plan. Our goal is that this planning is taken up as a priority of the next administration. We know that a lot of change is coming to the council and the city. We hope all of the members of this committee and your colleagues on the council broadly will be champions of this new plan for families. Thanks.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Shalonda Curtis Hackett. I am also a member of Narrowing the Front Door and an impacted parent by way of the family policing system. I'm here to add to what Nora is saying in that this office or agency, we're not looking to move from one overseer to a next. We are looking to create with community that this office is co-led, designed, and sustained by community. Right now, FECs are not created equal. Right, we have some FECs run by foster care agencies with budgets and things, and then we have some that are doing their best with 2 people on staff. We want the office or agency to be able to support that and grow that, and we currently don't see that under ACS as it is now. ACS has a budget and spent over $1.6 million on advertising last year, and I think that money could be well used in other areas as in direct supports for families, as well as supporting FECs who often are bootstrapping, mutual aiding, and figuring out how to support families. As we are currently approaching a SNAP loss, I know that FECs are trying to figure out where they're going to pull money from and how to support families directly. As a parent that has been impacted, when families currently have ACS cases, FECs are not a place where they feel safe enough to go. They are worried that their current cases will explode into something else if they are in crisis. While I did hear earlier today that, supports are there, what happens when crisis happens? I know that ACS and OCFS did a mandated reporter retraining, and it included some mandated supporting, which was actually started by JMAC for Families and Columbia School of Social Work, but it didn't include us. And so while they try to duplicate our work, they can't replicate it because they never included community in the process. And so what this agency and what we look forward to doing is still working with community who's in the community learning committee, and we're trying to figure out what actually works because we're working with community in the baseline, not after the fact.
Okay, I pressed the button. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Robbins. I'm welcome each one of the staffs. I'm here because my first issue is I'm working with FEC, Community Advisory Committee Board, and we're coming up with a new center called The Rock. And we already did several things where we reached out to the community where we did a bike drive. We gave away free bikes. We did events for Mother's Day. We did events for Father's Day. And I'm gonna let Elaine speak about that. And my other issue is I would like to piggyback off. I have two foster kids that I have adopted. The age is 18. My daughter, Jasleen, I'm going to say her name, she's going to NJIT for engineering, top student, special need child also. We had to take out a personal loan to attend that school because they say because we're coming from the Bronx, Jersey, she don't qualify for the benefits. So I did turn back to my agency, which Lutheran Social Service, and they did mention because she's not going out of state to a much farther school that she don't qualify for the loans and the benefits that she's supposed to get. So I did speak with the commissioner. He did say he will look into it because they don't feel that's right, that she has to take out this personal loan that's going to hinder her until she finishes school. So that is my very most important issue because she's got her heart set on being an engineer. And she builds computers. Whatever she set her mind on to, she finished it. Proud of her. So I'm very proud of her, and I thank ACS for putting her into my life and me being into both the kids' life. So that's...
Oh, y'all can clap for it. I'm supposed to clap, but I'm feeling sentimental today.
So that is my issue because my heart is set on seeing her succeed.
Thank you. I know I'm setting a bad precedent. Don't go on nobody else here and clapping because they're gonna be upset. So I'm sorry. It's me. I'm feeling warm today. So
Okay.
Told you I'm gonna get people in trouble.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
So I'm gonna let Elaine feel
Yes.
Hi. My name's Elaine McMillan. This young lady here brought me into the FEC program, and I'm used to doing a hand up, not a handout. So they got me into another, what would you call it, way of doing things. And the more you live, the more you learn. So what I've done was, with my community and the FEC, The Rock, what we have done together as a team, because I'm a great believer in each one teach one. And it takes teamwork to make that dream work. There's no I in team. So until our location opens on Tremont in the Bronx, we've been doing a whole lot of events, from Father's Day to being out there at, we live on 169th Street. McKinley Square is our place of where everybody goes, and we celebrated Father's Day, and they were happy about it because they were they said it's the first time somebody ever celebrated them. And then the mothers that were sitting out there said, well, I'm a father and a mother. So one of our directors went and got boxes of pizzas and celebrated them too. And so we did Mother's Day, and we gave the mothers, mom simply the best cups, and had them talk about their way of life. And we also did create a basket for Easter for the kids. They got to create their own baskets. And this was a community thing, and everybody got together. And then we did Boots on the Ground, where we had them come and make their T-shirts. And so the whole community got involved. Even the stores gave us food and the whole nine. Until our location opens, this is the things that we're doing in our community to remind them that we're here. And we're giving out flyers and everything. But it shouldn't take a year. So we need some help in getting our location open. And I would appreciate it from each and every one of y'all to make that happen. That's one of my quotes too. Thank you.
Oh, no. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. One, oh, yeah. You guys are doing the thing, because I'm clearly not good at that. But I just want to say, one, I think it's even your story that you shared about your daughter is so important, because one of the things that I've always been saying a lot of my hearings with ACS is that I think the things that are happening at the top are not necessarily trickling down. And so it's always good to put context to some of the disconnects, right? Like, so your story and Trevor's story is important to hear, because we do have representatives from ACS in real time how there is some disconnect. And so we really appreciate you guys coming and sharing those personal stories with us, and really appreciate it. And I'm loving the buttons and the hat, so I really, really appreciate it. So thank you guys. I'll be calling the next panel.
Okay.
Ling Han, Dr. Charles, Nycc Solomon, Good Shepherd, and Dr. Emily Lopez. No, it's only 4 in this panel. And Jocelyn, Casares. Jocelyn. Oh, you can come to the panel. We need another chair. Whoever can start.
I'll start. Good afternoon, Chair Stevens. I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate the beautiful space here. It's very comfortable
Right, we got
and
windows.
uplifting, and we're really liking it. So thank you very much, Chair, for having this oversight hearing over FECs and inviting us to testify. I'm Dr. Sophine Charles, the Associate Executive Director at Kafka. And I want to lift up, we're talking about FECs, but I want to lift up primary prevention. FECs is the branding name for it, but we're talking about primary prevention. And historically, families involved with child welfare and family advocates, they've sought preventive measures that prevent and avoid the removal of children. And in New York City in 1972, the Good Sisters, the Sisters of Good Shepherd Agency in Park Slope, they started the Family Reception Center, and that was one of the first and earliest forms of primary prevention in the city. And I have that report for you because we need to look at the history of how this got started, and the importance and the value of primary prevention programs cannot be overstated, especially when families can choose and receive services without creating a formal child welfare case or record. Families can access services in their neighborhood without facing the stigma or shame of seeking services. So we really want to make sure that primary prevention is seen as one of the foundations and primary discussions in this hearing. And I just want to say what our recommendations are. We recommend that the council invest more in primary prevention programs. We'd like to see the funding baselined and increased to support the workforce that can also drive the quality and success of the programs. And I'll end by just saying that Kafka supports primary prevention, and that we want to see the FECs in all of the 51 county districts, community districts. Right now, out of their 25 out of the 51, and we think that all communities should have this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Liang Han, Program Director of Rise Up Family Enrichment Center in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. FEC follows co-design and community-led model, from the site name, community interview, and space design to programs and budget priorities. Community voices are behind every step, making FEC truly responsive to local needs. Since last July launched, we've hosted over 150 activities and community discussion circles, involving over 1,500 individual attendances, listening to families' challenges, concerns, and strengths, connecting resources to community, and bring their voices to elected officials, service providers, and the local schools. FEC try to connect everyday experiences to the policy, citywide data, and the programs that grew from the ground up. To sustain this work, Rise Up advocates increasing or making personnel funding flexible so we can keep a stable, full-time bilingual team supporting our community. Because our community is multilingual, we have to split full-time roles into part-time positions. This expands access, but make it harder to maintain continuity. True community trust takes time and consistency. And the crochet vest and my earring I'm wearing today were made by community members. 3 caregivers and a youth used 3 months to co-design and led an 8-week, 18-participant intergenerational crochet circle, connecting across cultures and generations and exploring turning skills into a small business. So we hope FECs can keep providing open and safe space to listening to residents' lifting voices and building bridges from the top to down and from the ground up. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Chair Stevens and the members of the Committee on Children and Youth for hosting this oversight hearing to evaluate the Family Enrichment Centers. My name is Nycc Solomon, and I'm Director of Good Shepherd Services Family Enrichment Center, known as the CRIB, Community Resources in Brooklyn, located in East New York in Councilmember Sandy Nurse's district. The CRIB was among the first FECs to be opened in the city of New York. I began as community organizer in 2017 and was promoted to director in 2023. The CRIB is a warm, inviting space where neighbors identify community-focused resources, share their talents and interests, and offer each other support. Everything about the center, including its name, the physical layout, and offerings, is co-designed with the community through a process of appreciative inquiry. My testimony will focus on the CRIB's impact. Economic mobility. The first 3 FECs received Doris Duke funding to support our economic mobility offerings, which were co-designed with the community. This funding allowed us to engage with 150 businesses and support the launch of 3 nonprofits, each serving the East New York population in socially innovative and culturally responsive ways. This funding also supports a community success coach who coordinates this work. Before this role, our coach served as a Dream Team member, which is our advisory board. This work has provided pathways for credible messengers, immigrants, and those lacking access to formal education to create economic opportunities for themselves. In addition, this funding has allowed the CRIB to provide funding for our local businesses, microgrants, the Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprise Certification, cover the cost of business filings and purchase of critical supplies and equipment for entrepreneurs to thrive. The economic mobility work exemplifies the FEC's commitment to community development and disrupts recidivism and poverty. The sustainability of this work is threatened given that Doris Duke funding will expire on December 31st of this year.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge both Councilmember Julie Menon and Councilmember Natasha Williams have joined us in the hearing.
Good morning, Chair and members of City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of Our Place Family Enrichment Center located in Hunts Point, Longwood community with Graham as the backbone agency. My name is Dr. Emily Lopez, Senior Director of Community Leadership Development. A community member shares, I entered Our Place 8 years ago as a single mom of a 3-year-old son, hesitant on socializing at the time, while also wanting support and a village to share all who I am. I've obtained education in financial literacy, voting rights, CPR first aid education and certification, and recently completed my food handler certification. Taking care of business is an entrepreneurial offering engaging over 300 community members and awarding 203 micro grants, creating a ripple effect throughout the local economy. Offering concrete supports, food distribution, and essential items with dignity at Our Place are central to our mission. Family engagement and community connection at the center serve as a living hub with our families, lifting up community voice. As the city continues to expand and strengthen Family Enrichment Center model, we respectfully present the following recommendations. Expand investment to $33.6 million annually. Integrate economic mobility as a core protective factor. Increase funding for staffing and competitive salaries. Sustain concrete supports with dignity. In conclusion, by doubling this investment, the city can expand its reach and impact, empowering FECs to support not just 60,000 families, but potentially more than 120,000 families citywide each year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Thea Stevens and Council of Children of Youth. My name is Jocelyn Caceres, and I'm the Director of Eastside Soul Family Enrichment Center, proudly serving East Harlem, supported by Union Settlement. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today on the critical role FECs plays in the lives of New York City families and to share the deep community-driven impact our center has made. When people ask me what a FEC is, I don't just share our mission statement. I tell them about the mother who came in needing a stroller and left with a support network. I tell them about the father who joined the parenting group feeling ashamed and left feeling empowered. I tell them about the families who now walk into our center and say, I feel safe here. This is what we do. We create safety, we create connections, we create a family, a chosen one, for people who often feel left behind. At our core, our FEC center is about relationships. We don't approach families with a top-down model. We meet them where they are, physically, emotionally, culturally, and we build with them. From day one, our center was co-created with the community. Families help shape our space, our programming, and most definitely our culture. And because of that shared ownership, we are trusted. That trust is what allows us to be effective. We didn't arrive in East Harlem assuming what families needed. We asked them and then we listened. We opened our doors June 2023, not just for services, but for conversations, for meals, for healing, and most of all, happiness. Over time, our center has become more than a building, it's a home base. It's where families celebrate milestones, grieve losses, learn, grow, and most importantly, know they are not alone. As so, we serve as a hub, a safe space for families navigating the very real challenges of housing insecurity, food access, education gaps, and trauma. We offer everything from parenting circles to wellness workshops to leadership development, and we do it in a way that honors dignity, culture, and voice. Our center has grown into what many now recognize as a model for other FECs. I've been humbled to advise peers across the city who've come to observe our approach. What makes us exemplary isn't flashy, it's foundational. As you evaluate the Family Enrichment Center model, I urge you to consider the long-term value of this work. This is prevention in its purest form. It's about strengthening families before the crisis, and it's working. This kind of love doesn't show up in spreadsheets, but it changes lives. We are doing prevention work every single day, quietly, consistently, and with care. We are walking with families before the crisis, before the system gets involved, and giving them the tools and the relationships they need to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. You guys are so supportive today. Let me tell you. I guess especially because this panel has so many providers on it, just wanted to just ask a quick question around some of the concerns. I know what we had with the previous panel, they were saying around like it being part of ACS. Can you guys kind of talk about like the firewalls that you've like put up in your programs to ensure families feel safe and don't feel like there's some surveillance or things like that? Can you guys walk us through some of that really quickly? Don't fight over each other.
Thank you for the question. Actually, when I sit behind, I really want to answer some of the questions to present ACS team, because I know ACS team, really support and oversight FECs. But from our perspective, we from community, we saw community members come to our space every day about their previous thoughts about ACS. Actually, I felt like in recent years, they also changed some of their minds, and they really saw ACS team try them best to, to focus on the prevention than involvement or intervention. So during the time in Rise Up Family Enrichment Center, actually, we also try to be transparent and honest to them who is our founder. But at the same time, we also explain to them there are a lot of departments under ACS as well. And during the time, community members also understanding there are a lot of things changing, and different departments and the service providers also changing as well. So during the time, when they co-designed the program with us, they really established from the site name Rise Up. We stand for resilience, inclusive, support, and empowerment for uniting people in Sunset Park. They choose the site. They built out the outlet, and they designed the site and the co-design program. During the process, they also re-know and relearn ACS services and also other services as well. So I hope I respond to some of your question, and also I would like to say currently, not only for our agency or our mother agency, a different agency currently is facing different challenges as well. So make that safe also based on like a different situation, and time by time, day by day, a lot of situation is changing. So how to always follow these changing to support community members? This is my whole of the answer to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And are you guys selling these earrings? Because they're very nice. I'm very into them. They're good. Thank you. Anyone else wanted to chime in?
So I'll quickly share that in the beginning, when we started 8 years ago, that was the first question that community asked us: who's your funder? And we shared with them honestly, ACS. And we also shared at the same time, in the same breath, we're not taking applications. We're not asking for your name. You don't have to sign in if you don't want to. And so that was really important to the community, and that was something that gained trust. And so building that trust it took time because, words are nice, but action is different. And so word of mouth started getting around, and they understood that no, we weren't sending out information. We were keeping to our word. There were no applications. There were no ways of contacting back. And that really created an opportunity for us to continue to engage and co-create and create a common language so that we can communicate with each other differently and somewhere where we can understand what they were asking for was a helpful help.
Thank you. It's just for me, it's just important to make sure that we have your voices heard in that conversation too, because I know those were a lot of questions and wanting to get your experience and making sure it's on the record, right? Of like the work that you're doing and how you're creating those firewalls and how you're part of ACS actually trying to change the face of the harm that was done in communities that you are currently in, right? And so there's work that you're doing and there's work left to be done, but I think that this is a good start on even trying to just change that approach. But I don't have any more questions for this panel. Thank you guys for being here today. I'll be calling the next panel. Singcha. I'm saying that so wrong, so please correct me when you get up here. Amanda Perez, Melissa Mejia, Paula Inhar, and Christopher Johnson. We needed a chair because of the translator. Mm-hmm. Whoever can start.
Okay, I'm going to start. Thank you, Chair Althea Stevens and the members of the Committee on Children and Youth for hosting this oversight hearing to evaluate the effectiveness of ACS Family Enrichment Centers. My name is Melissa Mejias, and I have the honor of being the director of the Harmony Hub Family Enrichment Center. We proudly serve the Fordham University Heights neighborhood located at 2001A Creston Avenue. We are proud to have continuous partnership with District 14 Councilwoman Perina Sanchez, the 4-6 Precinct, and Bronx Community Board 5, to name a few. Harmony Hub FEC is part of that round 2 cohort of FECs which came in trailblazing, and it was apparent and clear that a village was needed to support the identified communities in need. Harmony Hub is a home-like space where community members can gather to obtain support and finding resources within the area, obtain concrete needs, a place where families can gather safely, and most importantly, have a sense of belonging. When you enter Harmony Hub, welcome home is echoed to every person who entered those doors. Our story started off with one folded out table, 2 chairs, an AED, and one director with a dream to empower the community beyond their wildest dreams. We have come a long way since our first community event in March of 2024, where we partnered with Councilwoman Perina Sanchez, engaging over 300 families. Since then, we have proudly secured partnership with the NYPD 4-6 to engage youth via the NYPD Life Skills Program, where every Thursday night since September, you have been in our home. We provide resources and support in partnership with ACS and community events such as the annual Back to School Giveaway and the Teen Summit. We supported over 74 youth attending their proms by providing brand new designer prom dresses and suits, boosting their self-esteem and making them feel amazing and knowing their worth. Knowing that learning doesn't stop there, 94 book bags more went out for summer school. We blessed over 60 expecting mothers with formula diapers and wipes, and just this August, 100 more book bags went out. We ask that we just continue to pour into us financially so we can have a greater impact, and I ask that you partner with us so we can possibly have changed the life trajectory of those we better service. And I thank you for your time, and I hope to see everyone soon home at Harmony Hub.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Stevens and the committee. I think it's good afternoon now.
Yeah, we've made it.
My name is Amanda Perez, and I'm the director of the Bronx Hype Family Enrichment Center in Mahaven. Bronx Hype stands for Helping Your People Evolve, and it became operational in August of 2022. And from the very beginning, we co-designed our space with families. We officially opened our doors and revealed our name in May of 2023. The process matters because the center was built with families' voices at the center. Families did not just walk into something created for them, they helped create it themselves. Since that time, we have grown in ways that I could have never imagined. Just this past year alone, we have been able to serve 7,800 families. About 3,000 came for our workshops, offerings, and partnered events into the center, and another 4,800 came to us just this summer because of a food distribution that we had. And while those numbers are important, they do not tell the full story of what actually happens inside our doors. So many families walk in because they need something concrete, like food, clothing, a stroller, and other supports. Some come in really excited for an event or an offering that they're interested in. They come in sometimes guarded, unsure, and even sometimes embarrassed. But after coming back a few times and developing relationships, something changes. They start to let their guard down. They believe, they share if they're struggling with their mental health. They admit if they're feeling alone or scared. I know that there are real concerns about trust. Families in the Bronx carry a long history of being watched more closely than being supported. And I want to acknowledge that fear because I see it every single day. But what makes the Family Enrichment Centers different is that we meet families with dignity and without judgment. Over time, families realize that this space is where they are safe, where their voice matters, and where their struggles are not held against them, but held with them. This is why parents who were once afraid to share now tell us their truth. I have much more, but we can continue.
Thank you.
大家好，我叫朱青霞，日落公园居民，也是 Rise Up FEC 的参与者。我是2个孩子的妈妈，其中一个是早产儿，养育过程充满挑战。Rise Up 为我提供一个开放的平台，让我认识到来自不同文化背景的人，也慢慢地帮助我的孩子与多元文化连接。这里的活动与资源让我更自信、更加力量，也激励我回馈社区，无论年龄或者种族、性别。通过参与 Rise Up 的社区研究小组，我学会了发声和链接资源的重要性。每当遇到困难 ，Rise Up 都给予我支持和帮助，让我坚持前行。如今我是我孩子学校的 Title One 副主席，努力链接家庭与资源，推动实际改变。我也在 Rise Up 开展的 ELS 课程中学习英语。感谢 Rise Up 让我和我的家庭更坚强，也让我有机会支持更多社区成员。我希望 FEC 可以获得更多经费，让更多像我一样需要帮助却充满潜力的社区成员在成长的道路上感受到陪伴和支持。谢谢。
This is the most supportive hearing I've ever been in, and I love it for me. I'm gonna invite y'all back to all my hearings.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nycc Zhu. I'm a resident of Sunset Park and a participant at the Rise Up Family Enrichment Center. I'm a mother of 2 children, one of whom was born prematurely, and raising them has been full of challenges. Rising Up has provided me with an open and welcome space where I can connect with people from diverse cultural backgrounds. It has also gradually helped me help my child engage with the different cultures. The activities and the resources here have made me more confident and empowered and have inspired me to give back to the community, regardless of age, race, or background. Through participating in Rising Up's Community Study Circle, I've learned the importance of speaking up, and connecting with resources. Whenever I face challenges, Rise Up offers support and guidance that helps me keep moving forward. Today, I serve as a Title I Vice Chair at my child's school, working to link families with resources and advocate for meaningful change. I'm also taking English classes through Rise Up's ESL programs. I'm grateful to Rise Up for making my family stronger and giving me the opportunity to support other community members. I hope that the Family Enrichment Center can receive more funding so that more community members like me, those who need help but are full of potential, can feel support and companionship on their journey of growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Stevens and members of the Committee on Children and Youth for convening today's hearing. My name is Paola Inargue. I'm a policy analyst at United Neighborhood Houses. UNH is a policy and social change organization representing neighborhood settlement houses. We mobilize our members and their communities to advocate for good public policies and promote strong organizations and practices that keep neighborhoods resilient and thriving. New York City settlement houses provide a wide range of services that support families even when they're not contracted with ACS, including early childhood education, youth development programs, eviction prevention, among others. Settlement houses are often the first point of contact for community members, offering multiple entry points and building trust over time. In recent years, settlement houses have contracted with ACS to create and operate FECs, and currently 7 UNH members settlement houses are FEC providers. UNH monthly convenes the settlement house FEC providers, so I will be sharing some recommendations in light of their perspectives and their feedback. First, recognizing the vital role settlement houses play, UNH urges ACS to keep minimal restrictions on co-location for existing and future FECs. Settlement houses are long-standing community hubs, and allowing FECs to operate within these spaces gives provider flexibility to offer more services under one roof. Space is scarce in New York City, and separate locations from a backbone agency should not be mandatory. Strict space rules can harm organizations and limit timely services to families. Also, to strengthen these programs, we also need better and more sustainable funding, particularly for the staff who make this work possible. Human service workers are the backbone of our city's social infrastructure, yet they continue to be paid far too little for the essential work they do. Contracts must reflect the true cost of providing quality services and fair compensation. Additionally, funding should allow more time flexibility for startup expenses, recognizing the time it takes to hire staff, secure space, and build sustainable programs. And lastly, there are many lessons and community-driven practices from the FEC model that can and should be applied across the city programs that serve families. Families engage with the city through multiple entry points like cornerstones, beacons, early childhood programs, and more. Any program that supports families should operate through the same family-centered, strengths-based lens because it's what families need and respond to. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I want to break this screen. Let me just put it like this. Hello, Chair Stevens. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I'm here to show support for your resolution to make it aware that there must be posters for foster care youth to get education about how they can get financial support for higher education. Let me make this clear. Let me be on the record that I am a foster kid, but I know my dad is Dominican and my mom is Trinidadian. And I want to make it clear that my mom made sure that I went to college. But there's a lot of kids that are in the foster care system don't have that opportunity. I see that there's a lot of people that has the authorization to be a foster care parent. All they see is a paycheck as a stipend from ACS and the various other agencies. And what happens is they make sure that these kids that they take in fail. There's a big problem not only with the group home system that they make sure that they fail. You have a number of foster care parents, so-called parents or guardian takers. They make sure that those kids fail. So the reason I think they want them to fail because it increased the crime rate, and they make sure that we get more kids coming into the system. They can make it's like a racket for these parents. So we have to make it where that these kids succeed. We have to make 2025 is a year that these kids need the right access to succeed. But if we keep on having these so-called parents in the way, make sure these kids don't succeed, you're gonna keep on having this stuff in the city with recidivism and high crime and mental illness, drug use, and crazy dropout rates. Thank God I didn't drop out of high school, but there's a lot of kids that dropped out of high school. Most of the time is because of what's going on at home. So I'm calling the city council not only to make a resolution to make sure this happened, they need to really put more initiatives in the city, within the city council, to make sure that these kids get the help they need. And these kids need to be heard. These foster kids need to be heard, not the parents, not the agencies, but the kids. You need to dedicate to the kids. So thank you so much and enjoy your day.
Thank you, Chris. That was a good good
Yeah.
one. He's behaving today. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And that's a good one. I know you're a foster care youth, and so I think that it's important that you're here. And we had a foster care day yesterday in council, so we want to keep centering those voices in these conversations. So thank you for that. And I just had a question for the providers. I know you guys were talking about all the things that you're doing, as far as like making sure parents have strollers and all these things and clothes. Can you talk a little bit about like the budget process for you guys? Because I think that's also important because that's a lot. And then hearing the numbers that, as far as like the overall budget, I know it was an additional 100,000 that was given for these budgets since the expansion, but it still doesn't seem like the numbers don't really add up for what you're doing and what is actually being done. So if you could talk a little bit about that very briefly and succinctly.
I'm not needed, right? I'm not needed. I'm good. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you're right, like the math ain't mathin', right? So we need that support, right? So in the beginning of the budget process, we called it was a blessing in the beginning because we had that extra 100,000 where dreams became a reality for our community members, right? Then once that 100,000 left, we were like, oh my God, what are we gonna do, right? And that's where we heavily depend our local organizations. We depend on our community. For instance, Community Boutique alone comes from actually clothing donations from our backbone that are brand new and gently used. And also mothers are coming in, giving back to other mothers. You know what? I know what it's like to struggle. I have all these clothes coming in. Can I give back to you? Because they're actually getting back from us. So I think it's really a give and take. And I think also too, in terms of the funding, when we're looking at the budget, we really try to prioritize what our community is saying and hearing and they're needing. So I think, and it's said best when ACS, concrete needs, that's the biggest one. You're right, strollers, Pampers, wipes, formula, clothing, that's all that's needed. So when we look at our budget, we really try to count on our community partners, our community councils, our backbone agencies, and ACS does help with some of those donations as well. So I think the bigger picture is to kind of figure out what we have and then how can we grow for better.
Thank you. I shared that in just this past summer, we were able to feed about 4,800 families. That was not that did not come from the FEC budget. That came from a partnership with Grow NYC, where they gave us $4,000 every 2 weeks. So that was about $8,000 a month to feed these families. And due to the federal cuts, unfortunately, that program is no longer available, and we are trying to figure out where that is. I'd like to tell everybody that I work with, listen, the FEC is not a place for us to duplicate what you're doing. I want to do what you're doing in partnership with you. And so to Melissa's point, the strollers, we have a thrift store called Second Story in partnership with Foster Pride. And all of these things, we're not buying out of our pocket. I have PAC members in the room right now, and they always know, nope, we don't got the money for that. So let's get clever. Let's get creative. What can we do together? I have had the privilege of being hands-on with my budget from year zero, from the very beginning of the implementation, and seeing how fast that money goes from our rent to Con Edison. And when I think about urgent needs and what my ask in terms of funding is really to sustain my staff. I have hardworking staff. And so for me, it's more like more money so that we can pay our staff more money for, bonuses here and there. But on top of that, also so we can feed people. And so supplies, so that is kind of where I'm at when it comes to budget.
I think it's just really important because it's true. It sounds like you guys are doing all this. And again, like the work that all of us do in nonprofit, we do it because we love our community and we love our people. And so we're going to make $1 out of 15 cents. But my job in this role is to make sure that you have the resources. So again, I just want to urge everyone to think about this budget season. I need you guys to show up the same way you guys showed up today to make sure that this is a concrete ash and we can continue to push the city to get more services and resources. Because again, things are going to look very different because of the government shutdown and all the things that's happened at the federal level and how everything is going to get tighter and the squeeze is going to get worse. And communities like ours are the ones that's going to be felt the most in this impact. And so I want to make sure that we are preparing and figuring it out. And I know everyone's talking about these thrift stores. I have so much unused clothes because I clearly have a problem. I keep buying clothes.
You need to
So
come on home.
I will
You need to
let me know who needs it, because I can like start boxing them up and give it to everybody, because
come on home.
I have a problem. And so I want to help people with this problem and give it away. So I know it's wintertime. I have coats and things, and I know we should definitely be partnering, and I'm happy to partner with anyone to do some like clothing drives and things like that, because
We
don't
need
really
men
just-
clothes.
I have an office full of men who also
Need
have
men
problems,
clothes.
and I will
We
make
need baby
sure that
Harmony
they
Hub
bring in
need,
their
on the
stuff.
record, Harmony Hub needs baby clothing.
all right. So I got it. So my men in my office, y'all heard them. They need men clothes, and I have, and it's a wide range of sizes, because you know how us women do. So thank you guys. Thank you to this panel, and that will be concluding our in-person testimony. If there's anyone who still wishes to testify, please see the Sergeant at Arms. We're going to be moving over to virtual right now.
Okay, so we will be doing our Zoom panelists now. Once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the Sergeant at Arms will set the timer and give you the go-ahead to begin. First up, we will have Georgina Gooden.
You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Stevens, council member, and members of the committee. Thank you so much for this opportunity to testify. I'm Georgina Gooden. I'm speaking today as a mother and as an advocate. I am a Brownsville community member who is part of the learning community working on a new vision for family support outside of ACS. I have seen both firsthand and through community interactions the effects that ACS interactions have had on families. Through my role in this project as an analyst on the Family Policy Project, our team have been looking thoroughly through previously collected data to examine more effective ways to advance community approach to support families. As a member of the Family Advisory Board of United for Brownsville, I have also seen that it is possible to create different and new pathways to support families, such as just working through peer support and community programs like We Run Brownsville. As someone who had to enroll myself in ACS primary prevention services to access childcare, I feel passionately that families should not have to interact with ACS in order to get support. I only needed diapers and childcare because I wanted to be able to attend in-person classes at my college courses. While enrolling in these services, I was informed that I needed a case manager, that I had to sign. I was told that I did not have an ACS case, but the paperwork that I was asked to complete had ACS clearly listed on the top of the page. So now I was left wondering, did I just enroll myself in ACS services? Is my child going to be taken away from me? I had to make myself available for weekly case prevention, case manager meetings to visit my home to make sure that my child was being cared for. What if I didn't want to do this? What if I missed a visit? I dare not consider that as an option. The reputation of ACS that it has had in my community and the residual traumas associated with ACS involvements leads
Your time has
families-
expired. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will have Malka Grossman.
You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Stevens, distinguished members of the Committee of Children and Youth. My name is Malka Grossman, and I have the honor of serving as the director of our Family Enrichment Center, our 10th, under our backbone agency of OHealth Children's Home and Family Services. I'm here with my colleague, Yitz Elman. It is a privilege to be here today to share the vital work that we do and the tremendous impact that we have within our community. Our 10th Family Enrichment Center is located at 1600 East 19th Street in Brooklyn. Proudly serves Lapis Midwood community with Community Board 14. Each and every day, our doors open to families who need support, connection, and a sense of belonging. We are a village of care and deeply committed to strengthening families and creating a safe, welcoming space where parents and children can grow together with dignity and love. I'd like to share one story that reminds me of this work that matters so deeply. We met a 9-year-old boy named David. Unfortunately, he's an orphan living with his grandparents who was brought to our FEC. Over the course of 5 different programs and community events, he found comfort, connection, and a place where he truly felt safe. His grandparents shared how much lighter and more hopeful he seemed after each visit. This is just one story among the thousands of children and families that we have had the honor of touching since opening our doors only 9 months ago. Our tent, we see firsthand the experiences, self-confidence, social connections, and stronger, healthier families. Our mission is simple, yet transformative: to strengthen families and nurture children and create a safe haven where everyone can feel at home. As we continue to expand our outreach and deepen our programs, we respectfully request continued support to enable these essential services, allowing us to continue delivering with excellence, compassion, and inclusivity. In closing, I want to thank Chair Stevens, the Committee of Children and Youth, and our council member, Ina Vernicoff, for your continued advocacy and support of our programs like ours. It is through partnerships like these that we can truly continue to build stronger, more resilient families and communities.
Thank you. Your time has
Thank you.
expired.
Thank you for your testimony. We have a few other people that registered but don't appear to be online. Yitzhak Elman, Shatidra Robinson. What? Oh, Shatidra Robinson and Dabin Lin. Thank you. I'll turn it over to the chair for closing statements.
If there's anyone left in the room who still wishes to testify, please see the Sergeant of Arms. No one's left. I would like to say again, this was a very feel-good hearing for me, because I believe that the FECs have kind of been in the shadows, and the work that you guys are doing is so essential. And honestly, a lot of organizations should be leading and doing the same exact thing that you're doing, which is having the community shape the program and the work that's happening. So thank you to all of you who showed up today. Thank you to everyone who's testified, and thank you for continuing to do the work. And with that, I conclude this hearing.